When everyone had fully compared the information gathered, it was revealed that there were at least 15 Tao integration cultivators among the foreign races, upper echelons this time, including some who had reached Tao fusion. For example, the leading demon beast, Saint Sky Splitter, was a terrifying monster at the peak of Tao fusion. And the leaders of the other two races, Saint Abyssal Serpent and Saint Thousand Faces, were also at Tao fusion. Realizing this, Jiang Chengxuan and the others couldn't help but fall into deep thought. With such a lineup from the three major foreign races, if they were to set up a direct group battle, casualties would inevitably occur amid the chaos. Even with a strategy focused on delaying, there would likely be situations where they couldn't cover everything. However, Jiang Chengxuan was unwilling to proceed in such a manner. Even though everyone was prepared to face death, retreat was absolutely not an option, but he also hoped to minimize casualties as much as possible. That's what a truly qualified leader should aim for. The enemy was in the open while they were in the dark. This information gap was their greatest advantage. But how to utilize it effectively? If these foreign races' plan is to set a trap, where will the trap be? They would surely split their forces and use a series of interconnected arrays. Jiang Chengxuan suddenly had an insight. Shen Ruyan immediately understood his intention. "You mean to defeat them one by one?" she asked. Jiang Chengxuan looked at her and nodded lightly. "Our biggest advantage in this battle is the element of surprise. Defeating them one by one is the best way to utilize this information." Hearing this, Saint Flash Thunder and the others nodded silently. An elder from the Cayenne family suggested, "This method is good. As long as we can conceal our presence from the enemy's probes, we can eliminate a group, then strike again. This would greatly weaken the enemy's forces." Saint Skywalker from Fashion Gate laughed and produced an array disk, saying, "Perfect. I have the Fashion Gate's unique space array, the domain locking array. As long as this array is not broken, no aura will leak out." With such a treasure presented, everyone showed a look of joy. It was as comforting as someone offering a pillow when wanting to sleep. Jiang Chengxuan also showed a slight smile, summoned his intrinsic heaven-connecting spiritual treasure, the 5 elements diagram, and said, "My heaven-connecting spiritual treasure also has the ability to conceal aura and trap enemies." Everyone was astonished to hear this. A heaven-connecting spiritual treasure. It was unexpected that Jiang Chengxuan, a Tao Inception cultivator, would possess such an astonishing treasure. Even without any plan, the presence of this treasure alone would increase their chances of victory by 10%. "Excellent," the Tao integration saints from all sects said, invigorated. Having arranged everything, all that was left for the group was to wait for the right opportunity. But after a day and night of discussions, the plan against the human cultivators was finally set in motion at the Tri-Race Sacred Grounds Council Hall. The arrays were jointly made and arranged, encircling the sacred ground in layers of interconnected reality and illusion. Once entered, even a Tao Mastery Saint would not be able to easily break free from the array. This ambush, gathering the leaders of the 3 races and various treasures, was an epic scheme of annihilation. However, unbeknownst to them, their opponents had already entered their array while they were still planning. As soon as the Tri-Race Conference concluded, without any hesitation, they immediately began setting up the serial killing arrays. Each team was led by at least 2 Tao Fusion Saints. Jiang Chengxuan and his team had been waiting in the initial area for a long time, and finally saw the enemy approaching. Fortune was on their side, as the group coming to set up in their area did not include any of the Tri-Race leaders, meaning no Tao Fusion figure presence. If they had happened to encounter a Tao Fusion Saint, their plan would have had to shift to ambushing the enemy leaders. Battles with Tao Fusion Saints cannot be easily concealed. Under the sunlight, the scales reflected blinding light, and 2 deep-sea nomad Tao integration cultivators entered their encirclement. Following them were a number of void returning creatures, all carrying various array-setting treasures, stepping into the trap set by Jiang Chengxuan and the others. With a glance between Jiang Chengxuan and Saint Skywalker, the locking domain array was immediately activated. In just a few breaths, the surrounding space was sealed off. Even void returning creatures noticed nothing amiss. "What's going on? Who's there?" One of the deep-sea nomad Tao integration cultivators detected something wrong and shouted, "Is this an array? Could it be the human cultivators?" The other Tao integration deep-sea nomad was surprised. but the only response was 5 mystic-colored lights. Jiang Chengxuan waved his hand, and the 5 elements diagram unfolded, then transformed into a flag. Eastern Green Dragon Flag. The power of the 5 elements operated, and the green dragon silently emerged, merging with the locking domain array to complement each other. In an instant, the deep-sea nomads within the array felt their primordial spirits shrouded in something. Their perceptions dulled and their understanding of directions, up and down, became incredibly vague. Not good, the human cultivators have arrived. Quickly send a message to the others. Realizing the peril, the Tao Integration Deep-Sea Nomad's dharmic power surged, unleashing the power of water element towards the sky. But suddenly within the green dragon's maze, several Tao Fusion human cultivators, each wielding their spiritual treasures, launched an attack. With the element of surprise on their side, and in a situation of 10 against 2, this first battle against the foreign races turned into a massacre, ending almost instantly. Given the disparity in strength, the deep-sea nomad stood no chance. Jiang Chengxuan and his team's only concern was the leaking of energy. Let's end this quickly. Shen Ruyan understood this very well. Thunder surged in her eyes as she instantly unleashed the Thunderfall seal, smashing it towards the void returning deep-sea nomads. Rumble. After a series of explosive thunder sounds, the void returning deep-sea nomads managed to withstand a few strikes, but were ultimately obliterated under the ferocious chaotic divine thunder, turning into dust. How dare you, human cultivators? Our deep-sea nomads will not let you off. Another Tao Integration deep-sea nomad furiously cursed, deciding to self-destruct his primordial spirit to draw attention from their kind. But the others did not give him a chance to do so. An elder from the Kayan family and a veteran saint from the Haoran sect worked together, striking him repeatedly with spells, forcefully stopping his self-destruction. They then depleted all his cultivation, reducing him to a mere mortal. The other Tao Integration deep-sea nomad was dealt with in the same manner, preventing any notice from foreign enemies due to the collapse of their Tao. A deep-sea nomad array team, thus, vanished under the hands of Jiang Chengxuan and the others as if they had never been there. This included the loss of 2 Tao Integration existences, a severe blow to the deep-sea race. The first encounter thus ended easily in the hands of Jiang Chengxuan and his team. Amidst the edge of the foreign race's sacred city, since defeating the first team of foreign race array setters, Jiang Chengxuan and his team no longer had any reservations. They started seeking out enemies to eliminate everywhere. From that moment, they had no way back. Their only choice was to swiftly exterminate the enemy's living forces. Relying on Saint Skywalker's locking domain array and Jiang Chengxuan's Eastern Green Dragon flag, they were able to smoothly conceal their movements, ambushing and counter-encircling teams from the foreign races time and again. Deep-sea nomads, demon beasts, and eldars all fell by their hands. Quickly, in just half a day, they had killed 6 Tao Integration cultivators from the foreign races. Moreover, they seized considerable spoils of war from the enemies, including materials rare within the domains ruled by humanity. These foreign race cultivators had brought along many of their race's resources to set up arrays. However, eventually, it benefited Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Additionally, the resources in the hands of the foreign races were rare in the outside world. With each trophy collected, the team couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. These are indeed rare materials, excellent for pill concoction and weapon forging. These foreign races have proven to be somewhat useful, commented an elder from the Kayan family. At this moment, they had just finished off the 3rd team of foreign race Tao Integration forces. Saint Skywalker's locking domain array needed a moment to recover before it could be used again. Just moments ago, a spider-shaped demon beast with a bloodline divine power branded on its back nearly broke through their array. Fortunately, Shen Ruyan unleashed the 5 lightning immortal slayer and her intrinsic 5 elements divine lightning in time, managing to slay the spider demon beast. Tao collapse can still be concealed for an hour. Let's move quickly, said Saint Skywalker, timing the recovery of the locking domain array. After 3 battles, the team had almost no losses. However, it was inevitable that they had to kill enemies. The fall of a Tao Integration saint would certainly cause a phenomenon of Tao collapse. Although it was possible to temporarily disrupt the heavenly secrets, it couldn't last long. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan was using the heavenly calculation technique. Since reaching the fifth level of the technique, he could approximate major events in the spiritual realm, even while in the heartland of the foreign races. In a world of vague heavenly secrets, Jiang Chengxuan saw impending darkness, signifying upcoming complications in the battle. Yet amidst the obstacles, a path of light still existed. Let us be careful, something seems off. The enemy might have realized something. Jiang Chengxuan stood up, warning his team. The faces of the saints from various sects turned solemn. Without much hesitation, they proceeded towards the next array point. This time, they encountered a massive demon beast that resembled a mountainous insect. With its 8 legs thrashing, its demonic energy shook the heavens. It was obvious that this was also a demon beast saint. Something's wrong. Where's the other Tao integration being? Shen Ruyan looked around but couldn't find the presence of another demon beast saint. Everyone was alarmed, realizing the situation almost simultaneously. We might have walked into an ambush, Jiang Chengxuan abruptly exclaimed. Although he had anticipated it, he didn't expect the enemy to act so swiftly. Human cultivators, to dare murder in our sacred city, you're courting death. A roar suddenly came from afar. Turning their heads, they saw a spider-like demon beast brimming with the aura of death. It bore a striking resemblance to the spider demon beast saint they had slain earlier. It was you who killed my mother. I will tear you to pieces. It turned out they encountered a species known as the mother-child spiders. When the child is harmed, the mother feels it, and vice versa. When Jiang Chengxuan and his team killed the mother spider, this spider demon beast saint sensed it and gathered numerous Tao integration foreign race cultivators to come. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and the others had walked right into his web. In an instant, demonic chi surged from all directions, and giant beasts roared as they charged from afar. Among them was a deep-sea nomad saint with 2 snakes on his shoulders, towering 10 feet tall, identified as Saint Abyssal Serpent, a Tao fusion leader of the deep-sea nomads. Human, you deserve to die. Saint Abyssal Serpent's cold serpentine eyes glared at Jiang Chengxuan and his team, furious. Only at this moment did Jiang Chengxuan and his team realize the enemy was more numerous than anticipated. Just the ones present amounted to 14 Tao integration beings from the foreign races. Foreign traders, inviting wolves into the house, conspiring against the floodgate realm, deserve to be lynched by all, Jiang Chengxuan calmly retorted, hands clasped behind his back. Hearing this, Saint Abyssal Serpent's face darkened, replying, Humans have dominated the floodgate realm for years, committing all sorts of atrocities, oppressing us, the foreign races. It's time we replace you as the owner of the realm. The path of cultivation is to compete with the heavens and earth. Is it because you are foreign races that humans should just hand over resources? Ridiculous, Jiang Chengxuan countered sharply, not falling behind. Saint Abyssal Serpent's face turned even more gloomy. In the next moment, he charged forward. His massive body, like a small hill, rushed towards them, with 9 serpentine shadows emerging behind him, spewing bizarre 9-colored poisonous light. In an instant, the overwhelming pressure of a Tao fusion being was unleashed. Yet Jiang Chengxuan showed no fear. Behind him, the phantom of a dragon and elephant appeared, with a 5-colored divine light protecting him, and he too charged towards Saint Abyssal Serpent with his physical body. Rumble! In the blink of an eye, during their aerial clash, hundreds of exchanges were made between the dragon-elephant force and the 9-headed venomous serpent, causing terrifying explosions. Remarkably, Jiang Chengxuan, despite being at Tao inception, did not fall into any disadvantage against Tao fusion. Possessing the power of the dragon elephant and protected by 5 elements, he was fully capable of contending with the deep-sea nomad saint. As the battle ignited, with their confrontation as the signal, numerous demon beasts and deep-sea nomads launched towards the human cultivators, sparking a massive chaotic battle. The cultivators from various sects summoned their spiritual treasures and cast spells, while the foreign race cultivators invoked their bloodline powers and innate divine abilities. In an instant, the area became a scene of catastrophic destruction, with all manner of forces wildly surging. Thunderous explosions and divine lights streaked ceaselessly through the void, nascent forms of the Tao emerged, and the terrifying power of Tao integration manifested various phenomena in the air. Although the human cultivators were formidable, the foreign races outnumbered them, making the battle fiercely contested. 5 Lightning Immortal Slayer. Shen Ruyan, enveloped in divine thunder as if she were a deity governing lightning, launched an attack on the demon beasts in front of her. Wherever her divine thunder struck, the demon beast's spiritual treasures and defenses were rendered useless, leaving them severely wounded and scorched all over. Among all Tao integration cultivators present, she stood unmatched. However, just as she was about to take her enemy's life, a beam of dark light suddenly struck from behind. The attack was incredibly fast, leaving her no chance to dodge. It was a strike of Tao fusion level, and behind the dark light, the ever-changing and eerily strange face of Saint Thousand Faces, a Tao fusion cultivator from the Eldarian race, emerged. The Eldars, a race renowned for their stealth and assassination prowess, possess innate bloodline abilities that allow them to evade detection and traverse through arrays with ease. Such adversaries are the most fearsome on the path of cultivation. Once you provoke them, you must always be on guard, as killing them is difficult due to their elusive nature, and escaping from them is nearly impossible. When Jiang Chengxuan and his companions arrived in this area, Saint Thousand Faces had already been covertly observing them. For an assassin, reckless assassination is always a mistake. Striking amidst chaos is a strategy that never fails. Thus, at the moment Shen Ruyan unleashed her power, preparing to kill a demon beast Saint Thousand Faces made his move. In his hands was a heaven-connecting spiritual treasure, the demonic black sword, a sword capable of penetrating any defense. It was precisely this treasure that enabled him to remain hidden until now. And he had set his sights on Shen Ruyan, the most conspicuous in the midst of the chaotic battle. In his mind, Shen Ruyan was already sentenced to death. Controlled by Saint Thousand Faces, the demonic black sword pierced through layers of divine thunder and then through the enemy's body. He was shocked and looked back in disbelief. That instant, the demonic black sword did not convey the sensation of tearing through the enemy's body. Instead, Shen Ruyan was enveloped in a dazzling thunder, her power surging, and her body had transformed into a body of thunder. Just as Saint Thousand Faces' assassination was about to hit, Shen Ruyan executed the thunder god true body, transforming herself into a form of thunder. In this state, any physical attack against her was ineffective. As for the destructive force attached to the demonic black sword, it was trivial under the five elements divine thunder. Thus, Saint Thousand Faces' assassination attempt was perfectly evaded by Shen Ruyan. Observing the constantly changing faces of Saint Thousand Faces, Shen Ruyan instantly identified the enemy's identity. She waved her hands, launching countless divine thunders at the enemy. However, Saint Thousand Faces' gaze sharpened, and he chose not to evade but to attack Shen Ruyan once again. In his view, the opponent was merely a Tao Inception cultivator, and even if the assassination failed, it would only cost a bit more time. But the next moment, he regretted it. The lightning released by Shen Ruyan was all five elements divine thunder, even containing strands of chaos energy. Upon contact, he was struck several times in succession and was forced to retreat immediately. Originally, he thought he could overpower the thunder and then use his divine power to kill Shen Ruyan. The power of the five elements divine thunder far exceeded his expectations. But Shen Ruyan did not waste the enemy's mistake. The moment Saint Thousand Faces retreated, she immediately summoned the five lightning immortal slayer, wielding the terrifying thunder to chase after Saint Thousand Faces, giving him no chance to breathe. Simultaneously, the battle between Jiang Chengxuan and Saint Abyssal Serpent also reached a fever pitch. After exchanging countless blows physically, Saint Abyssal Serpent discovered his opponent's extraordinary abilities. This human cultivator, despite being at Tao Inception, was able to confront him head-on. It had to be known that, among the foreign races, the demon beasts and the deep-sea nomads were famous for their physical strength. Little did they know that, with the enhancement of the dragon elephant divine power and the level of his body refinement, it was not an exaggeration to say that Jiang Chengxuan was also a humanoid demon beast. Innate ability, endless serpent abyss. Saint Abyssal Serpent's gaze turned icy as he finally unleashed his innate ability. A massive shadow of a nine-headed serpent emerged behind him, and a surge of cyan light struck Jiang Chengxuan. In an instant, Jiang Chengxuan's vision was filled with a dark green abyss of the sea, oppressively suffocating. Under the power of Saint Abyssal Serpent's innate divine power, his perception was blocked. The innate divine power of the nine-headed serpent race is connected to the serpent abyss, dragging the enemy into their battleground and clouding the enemy's perception. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan indeed lost track of Saint Abyssal Serpent's whereabouts. In this dark green abyssal marsh, the serpent had already concealed itself. Jiang Chengxuan couldn't sense any movement. His hearing and perception were gradually slipping away from him. However, this abyss was merely a projection of rules, not the actual world. Jiang Chengxuan summoned a breath of boundless righteous energy, channeling the golden force of merit into his eyes. Suddenly, the dark green scenery shifted to gray, and the enemy's body became clear. The serpent abyss was essentially a form of confusion similar to obscuring heavenly secrets. With the light of merit, Jiang Chengxuan could pinpoint the enemy's location without needing his senses. At this moment, Saint Abyssal Serpent, seeing Jiang Chengxuan standing there rooted to the ground, erupted with a murderous intent. A serpent staff, entwined with 9 serpents and his intrinsic spiritual treasure, appeared in his hand. It contained 9 terrifying poisons, and anyone at the same level who was struck by it would surely die. The next moment, he transformed into a ghostly light, charging towards Jiang Chengxuan. But just then, his opponent suddenly opened his eyes, filled with a misty golden light. Saint Abyssal Serpent instinctively felt something was amiss, but then a surge of 5-colored brilliance erupted behind Jiang Chengxuan. The 5 elements' divine light swiftly swept across Saint Abyssal Serpent's body, causing him to freeze momentarily. Then cyan, red, yellow, white, and blue lights exploded in an instant, the 5 elements' annihilation light piercing through Saint Abyssal Serpent's body in a breath. This was Jiang Chengxuan's intrinsic divine power, capable of annihilating all 5 elements, and even Saint Abyssal Serpent, at Tao Fusion Realm, couldn't escape. The dark green serpent abyss vanished from Jiang Chengxuan's sight, along with the figure of Saint Abyssal Serpent in front of him. Under the combination of the 5 elements' divine light and the 5 elements' annihilation light, plus a counter-strategy that caught the enemy off guard, they achieved victory. This deep-sea nomad Tao Fusion Saint was instantly obliterated by Jiang Chengxuan. In an instant, the phantom of the serpent abyss manifested in the sky, then slowly collapsed, emitting a sound like the heavens weeping. A chill ran through the hearts of numerous members of the various clans. Especially the deep-sea nomads, who watched Tao Fusion Saint perish before their eyes, their faces filled with disbelief. In this battle between the human race and the 3 races, the first to fall was their Tao Fusion Saint. But the next moment, something even more terrifying happened. On the battlefield where Shen Ruyan was, her ferocious thunder god body nearly pushed Saint Thousand Faces into a corner. It was all due to the inherent suppression of the thunder god body against assassins like Saint Thousand Faces, coupled with the relentless oppression by the tyrannical power of the 5 elements' divine thunder. In the final moment, Shen Ruyan exploded with astonishing speed. A primordial unified chi thunder pierced through the figure of the enemy, who was about to escape into the void. In the last instant, the Tao Fusion Saint actually showed fear. And seizing this opportunity, Shen Ruyan unleashed her killing move. Under the most fierce divine thunder between heaven and earth, the Tao Fusion Saint of the Eldarian race was thus eradicated of all vitality. The heavens displayed the fall of a Tao, the annihilation of rules. The 2 leading generals of the foreign races, fallen. In just a short span of time, 2 of the Tao Fusion Saints from the foreign races had fallen. This caused the originally fierce battlefield to fall into a deathly silence, where even the drop of a needle could be heard. Thunder roared, and the heavens mourned the fall of the Tao, presenting the facts right before the eyes of the foreign cultivators. The exaggerated combat power of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan caused the balance of the battlefield to tip in an instant. Under such circumstances, the morale of the foreign cultivators might very well disintegrate. Shen Ruyan dispelled her thunder god form, standing shoulder to shoulder with Jiang Chengxuan, looking towards the remaining foreign cultivators. The foreign cultivators were oppressed by the couple's formidable presence, no longer possessing their previous arrogance. Originally, they had come here to discuss plans for ambushing the human cultivators, not expecting that, before their plan could even start, most of their saints had already been decimated. With Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan capable of killing Tao Fusion cultivators, it implied they possessed power beyond the Tao Fusion realm. With such strength, eliminating the remaining foreign cultivators would be as easy as flipping their hands. In an instant, many of the foreign cultivators thought of fleeing. No matter if it was the so-called sacred city behind them, their lives were more important. They could be persuaded to set traps, but being used as cannon fodder was definitely not in anyone's interest. After this chaotic battle, the numbers on both sides were almost even, not to mention the comparison of strength. But just then, from within the void, suddenly came a tremendous howl. This tiger's roar directly broke Jiang Chengxuan's momentum of oppression, reigniting the courage of all the foreign cultivators. Underneath the sky, shadows suddenly loomed down, turning even the blowing wind sharp enough to cut through metal and stone. A mountain-like tiger head suddenly appeared in the sky, looking down upon Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Above the tiger's head were two pairs of tiger eyes, like four blood moons, radiating an extremely fierce aura. Sky Splitter, the Tiger Saint, the strongest leader sent by the foreign races, especially the Tiger clan, finally showed himself. Its figure spanned mountains and rivers, carrying an aura of mass slaughter. Just from its aura, Jiang Chengxuan could tell it was far more powerful than the two previous Dao fusion opponents. With a single roar from Saint Sky Splitter, all the foreign cultivators regained their will to fight. This was actually one of its divine powers, capable of stimulating the ferocity in cultivators and also disturbing the enemy's spirit, causing them to go berserk. Had it not been for the fact that the team was composed of Dao integration saints, all with firm wills, it's possible that some might have been killed by this roar alone. Die! Saint Sky Splitter roared, reigniting the conflict. He had only gone to consult the ancestor of his clan, but he did not expect such a thing to happen. That Saint Abyssal Serpent and Saint Thousand Faces had fallen so quickly was unimaginable. The human cultivators had unexpectedly arrived in the heartland of their three races, setting traps and killing many Dao integration foreign saints. His heart burned with rage, knowing that when their elders arrived, he too would inevitably be punished. Thinking this, Saint Sky Splitter manifested his nascent Dao form, turning the entire sky blood red. The Dao of slaughter unfolded, and a rain of weapons began to fall from the sky, with each weapon imbued with dense murderous intent raining down upon everyone. These were the souls of tainted or damaged spiritual treasures, summoned by the Dao of slaughter. Not only could they cause physical damage, but they also contained attacks that could taint primordial spirits. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan quickly summoned the five elements diagram, creating a protective canopy above everyone's heads to block the falling weapons. These tainted weapons dimmed the brightness of the five elements diagram significantly, and Jiang Chengxuan could feel his primordial spirit being subtly tainted. Yet ultimately, he managed to withstand this wave of attacks, protecting everyone's safety. Damn humans, today is the day you die, Saint Sky Splitter bellowed. He opened his massive jaws, and a blood-red array disc emerged, instantly enveloping everyone below. Due to the previous attack, everyone was grouped together, leaving them no chance to evade, and they were caught within the array. Experience the power of this level 8 top-grade array. Blood Sea Heaven Slaughtering Array activate. Saint Sky Splitter suddenly erupted with dharmic power, and a terrifying array was instantly activated. This was the treasure he had received from visiting his ancestor, originally intended for setting traps, but now he had to use it directly. This was a top-level 8 killing array. It was incomparably powerful. Once activated, it would immerse the enemy in a sea of blood, with dual attacks from purgatory continuously until the enemy trapped within perished. Jiang Chengxuan and the others hadn't expected the demon beast race to possess such an array, and now they were all trapped within a sea of blood. Blood-red lightning thundered in the sky above, while blood-colored giant waves surged below, containing the rules of destruction and death. Even Dao integration saints would not be spared if hit. Suddenly, amidst the storm's fury and the surging blood waves, the team that had ambushed the foreign races suffered their first losses. An elder from the Cayenne family was hit repeatedly by the blood waves and sank into the sea of blood, perishing. Old Wei, the remaining elders from the Cayenne family, cried out in grief. Soon after, Saint Skywalker from Feiyan Gate was struck by the blood-colored lightning and giant waves, tragically sinking into the sea of blood. Kill all these beasts, avenge us. Saint Skywalker roared in his dying moments, leaving everyone in profound sorrow. At this moment, outside the Blood Sea Heaven Slaughtering Array, a group of foreign cultivators had already surrounded Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. They channeled their dharmic power into the array, causing the sea of blood and thunder to become even more ferocious. Instantly, several people among them were injured. Seeing this, the foreign cultivators couldn't help but reveal satisfied expressions, with Saint Sky Splitter wearing a cruel smile on his lips. As long as the array remained unbroken, even if the human cultivators were to perish, their primordial spirits would still suffer eternal torment within it. This was the terrifying aspect of the array. In the Blood Sea Heaven slaughtering array, everyone finally gathered. Relying on Jiang Chengxuan's 5 elements diagram, they finally saw a trace of hope. However, outside the array, they witnessed an even more despairing scene. The sky outside was oppressively dark, as if about to drip with ink. A massive black cloud floated over to their area, and Saint Sky Splitter seemed to sense something, his 4 tiger eyes immediately looking in that direction. Suddenly, the black cloud transformed into a black tornado that slammed into the ground, creating a ferocious wind that made even Saint Sky Splitter retreat several miles. He focused his gaze and saw the black demonic wind disperse, revealing a giant clad in black armor, tens of meters tall, with a pitch-black scorpion tail hundreds of miles long trailing behind him. Saint Inked Death. Saint Sky Splitter was shocked, his expression becoming solemn. The newcomer was none other than Saint Inked Death, a top powerhouse of the deep-sea race, a Tao fusion saint. In the array, Jiang Chengxuan and the others could not help but narrow their eyes. Clearly, they recognized the newcomer. Saint Inked Death, a Tao mastery elder of the deep-sea race. His arrival at this time was certainly not without cause. It was likely due to the fall of Saint Abyssal Serpent, coming here for revenge. Had they not been trapped within the array at this moment, they might have had a chance to fight back. But now, they were nothing but fish on the chopping board. Sky Splitter, how did Saint Abyssal Serpent die? What happened? The moment Saint Inked Death appeared, he bombarded with questions, his face dark as storm clouds. Had this not been near the sacred city, he might have already been unable to restrain himself from striking at Saint Sky Splitter. The death of Saint Abyssal Serpent, a Tao fusion saint, was a colossal blow to the deep-sea race. Saint Sky Splitter, who was also a Tao fusion, was fine. How could he tolerate this? Moreover, it wasn't just one Tao fusion saint that the deep-sea race lost. 4 soul lamps within their race had been extinguished. This loss had regressed the deep-sea race's strength by 10,000 years. Faced with Saint Inked Death's furious questioning, Saint Sky Splitter dared not to be negligent. Instead, he relayed everything that had occurred truthfully. Throughout this, Saint Inked Death's expression grew increasingly somber. Human cultivators had actually infiltrated their sacred ground and killed so many of the deep-sea Tao integration and void returning cultivators. Such audacity, all humans deserve death. Saint Inked Death suddenly roared in fury, his Tao mastery aura unfurling, making everyone present feel suffocated. Then he shifted his gaze to the Blood Sea Heaven slaughtering array. Even through the array, Jiang Chengxuan and the others could sense that cold breath and murderous intent. Some felt despair in their hearts. Tao mastery cultivators could already master a Tao of heaven and earth. Coupled with the Blood Sea Heaven slaughtering array, killing them would be no more difficult than killing ants. Saint Inked Death approached the array. Gazing hatefully at Jiang Chengxuan and the others, he said, "I will make you wish you were dead. Every human I see from now on I will kill." With that, he thrust his 100-mile-long scorpion tail into the array. Instantly, the array became even more violent. The originally pure red blood sea now had streaks of black ink, like the apocalypse. Moreover, within the already destructive and deadly rules, more pain and poison were added. Even a single breath inhaled would allow the poison to invade their internal organs. What to do? At that moment, despair enveloped the cultivators of the various sects. Their eyes filled with a resolution to face death, ready to self-destruct to carve out the slightest chance of survival for others. It was then Jiang Chengxuan suddenly shouted towards the heavens, "Do you really think this will kill us?" Confusion spread among the crowd, and the gathering of demon beasts outside burst into scornful laughter. "You're about to die, yet you're still so arrogant." Saint Inked Death frowned, his disdain palpable. Yet an unsettling premonition whispered to him that something was amiss. But how could the situation turn, facing merely a Tao inception human cultivator? Traitors to the realm, betrayers of the floodgate realm, deserve nothing but death. Jiang Chengxuan bellowed with rage. Then from within his robes, he produced an unassuming orb. Its colors swirled with chaos, existing somewhere between illusion and reality. The moment Saint Sky Splitter and Saint Inked Death caught sight of this orb, a chilling dread surged within them. They couldn't identify it, but their instincts screamed danger. But before they could react, Jiang Chengxuan had already hurled the orb forward. "Go forth, Godslayer Heavenly Bead." This was Jiang Chengxuan's trump card, awarded for completing a system mission, the Godslayer Heavenly Bead, capable of annihilating all enemies within its range in an instant. The bead flew in the direction Jiang Chengxuan pointed, piercing through the array and beyond, unleashing its catastrophic power amidst the astonished gaze of the enemy saints. In that moment, even Saint Ink Death found himself caught off guard, barely managing to summon his protective treasure. The explosive force of the Godslayer Heavenly Bead was beyond Jiang Chengxuan's control. He could only give it the most basic instructions. When the Godslayer Heavenly Bead unleashed its full might, everything within its vicinity froze in time. Space itself seemed to convulse in chaos. To the eyes of Saint Ink Death and the others, it felt as though they were being sucked into a black hole, everything about them, including their very lives, stretched to infinity before being obliterated. This was annihilation on a fundamental level, a force of the rules themselves, unreachable even for a Tao Mastery saint like Saint Ink Death. It was a wiping of both body and soul. To Jiang Chengxuan and his companions, the world flashed white, and upon opening their eyes, the Blood Sea world had vanished. In fact, half of the sacred city of the foreign races no longer existed. Saint Sky Splitter, Saint Ink Death, and their clan members, it was as if they had never been there, with only their dropped treasures as evidence of their presence. The cultivators of Thunderclap Valley and others were dumbfounded. Even Jiang Chengxuan himself was stunned by the sheer might of Godslayer Heavenly Bead. In his original plan, if the Godslayer Heavenly Bead could simply break through the slaughtering heaven array and eliminate some of the enemy cultivators, they might stand a chance to turn the tides. Yet upon its deployment, the Godslayer Heavenly Bead not only shattered the enemies but obliterated them entirely, including the Tao Mastery powerhouse, Saint Ink Death. But truly, this outcome was primarily due to Saint Ink Death's oversight. Had he treated the Godslayer Heavenly Bead as a strike from an equal, preparing his intrinsic divine powers and spiritual treasures in advance, he might have avoided instantaneous defeat. Regrettably, he underestimated Jiang Chengxuan, a mere Tao Inception foe, resulting in this dire consequence. "Have we achieved our goal?" murmured Saint Zenith. They had annihilated the leaders of 3 races, including the only Tao Mastery powerhouse of the deep-sea nomads, along with countless Tao Inception foreign cultivators. What a splendid victory! The loss of so many Tao integration cultivators had undoubtedly severed the foundations of the 3 races. It would take tens of thousands of years for them to recover, if ever. The group fell into a long silence, having battled between life and death. They had completed their mission, yet their feelings were complex. "What's going on, Sky Splitter?" Just then a voice suddenly emerged before them. Jiang Chengxuan and the others looked around in astonishment, only to see a colossal white figure rising from the ground. He was as vast as a star, shaped like a giant ape, with eyes as red as the sun. His presence was terrifying, matching that of the earlier Saint Ink Death. He was a Tao Mastery Demon Beast Saint. This was none other than the ancestor behind Saint Sky Splitter, Saint Skyrest. Saint Skyrest towered over the gathered cultivators, his gaze sweeping over them like a tempest. He sensed the surroundings carefully, and his expression gradually darkened, like the angry gaze of a deity. Just now he sensed Saint Ink Death's arrival and chose not to intervene, wishing to avoid unnecessary complications. Yet following an eerie surge of energy, both Saint Sky Splitter and Saint Ink Death vanished without a trace. Now, a grim realization dawned upon him. Every Tao integration cultivator of the foreign races present had perished. Saint Skyrest's fury knew no bounds. In his quest to resurrect the glory of the demon beast race, he had reached out to Tianyao, Tianling, and Shanghai realm. The day the 3 realms would invade the Floodgate realm was to be the dawn of their resurgence. But now, with the core of his race's Tao integration cultivators annihilated here, what dreams of resurgence could he speak of? All hopes had evaporated into thin air. "Excellent, you humans have done a splendid job, Dai." With a scornful laugh that boomed like thunder, Saint Skyrest unleashed his Tao Mastery power. The cultivators watched as a colossal white ape seemed to pluck the moon from the sky, plunging the world into darkness. This was the bloodline talent of the sky-reaching ape clan, born with the ability to cultivate with the power of the moon. This level of force, imbued with the essence of the Tao, was formidable. In the next moment, Saint Skyrest's massive hand obscured the sky, hurling a gigantic orb of light that shattered the void and plummeted towards the cultivators with devastating force. It was as if he had seized the moon itself to use as his spiritual treasure. With stars falling and the heavens overturning, the cultivators hastily summoned their spiritual treasures, feeling an overwhelming heaviness in their limbs. This was the gravity suppression effect of Saint Skyrest's strike, subjecting them to thousands of times their usual weight. The ancestor of the Kayan family summoned the heaven-connecting spiritual treasure, ancient vein gold, transforming it into a sky-covering golden coin that smashed through the void. Saint of the Phaeton sect unleashed a divine feather that pierced through space, striking the full moon. Winds raged towards the divine feather, sweeping through the void. The cultivators of Thunderclap Valley summoned divine thunder like a long river, pouring towards the full moon. The Haoran sect cultivators manifested the nascent form of the Tao, using the power of rules to block. Under the collective assault, Saint Skyrest's full moon began to crumble, ultimately shattered by Shen Ruyan's 5 lightning immortal slayer, dispersing moonlight in all directions. Such was the might of a Tao mastery saint, compelling the cultivators to exhaust all their techniques with a single strike. Today, none of you shall leave. From the skies, Saint Skyrest declared dominantly. He reached towards the heavens again, his Tao mastery power erupting, and another terrifying full moon plummeted towards the cultivators. This time, they were out of options to resist. But Jiang Chengxuan was still in the fight. Rising into the sky, he summoned his intrinsic heaven-connecting spiritual treasure, the 5 elements diagram. A distant sense of reincarnation unfurled around Jiang Chengxuan, as if he stood beyond the mundane world. With a movement of his hand, he unleashed a tremendous power of reincarnation towards the full moon. Hand of Reincarnation. This was a divine power Jiang Chengxuan had enlightened on his own, combining the transformations of the 5 elements with his infinite wheel, related to the rules of reincarnation. Once deployed, it could disrupt the heavens and the earth. As if an immortal's hand invisibly toyed with fate, under Jiang Chengxuan's command, the full moon twisted wildly before dissolving into the void. Such a display of the power of rules even caused Saint Skyrest's gaze to sharpen. It seemed the deaths of Saint Sky Splitter and Saint Ink's death were not merely due to an ambush. He became determined to eliminate Jiang Chengxuan, believing that only by killing such a potent human talent could he avenge his clansmen. Furthermore, allowing Jiang Chengxuan to return would leave an endless threat. Without further ado, Saint Skyrest unleashed his full combat strength. His body, already stellar in size, began to expand, the moon's rules oppressively bearing down on everything, eerie yet domineering. In the next moment, his gargantuan hand obscured the sky, piercing through the void and arriving in an instant. To those below, it felt like they were the moon he sought to pluck from the sky, rendered immobile. Under this strike, many feared they would be slain. Boom! But then, a massive 7-colored divine thunderbolt shot from the void, striking Saint Skyrest's hand. This attack was extremely powerful and fast, saving everyone's lives. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan felt a surge of joy. This familiar and domineering power of thunder was unmistakably that of Yun Yizhen from Thunderclap Valley. Sure enough, in the next moment, a familiar voice followed. We made it just in time, it seems. Yun Yizhen's figure appeared, and to everyone's delight, he was accompanied by Zhu Ping, the sect master of the Haoran sect, among others. There were several Tao mastery powerhouses. At the last moment, the contact they had sent out earlier finally found help for Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Seeing this, the group, who had narrowly escaped death, felt an immense sense of relief. Saint Skyrest's expression, however, fluctuated unpredictably. Among Yun Yizhen and the others, he recognized a familiar face. Saint Obsidian Eclipse, the ancestor of the Eldarian race. So his delay in arriving was because of this. Are you all right, Chengxuan? Once again, you've made a significant contribution for the sake of humanity, said Zhu Ping, the sect master of the Haoran sect, as he approached Jiang Chengxuan, speaking with satisfaction. I merely did my best. It's also my responsibility, Jiang Chengxuan replied. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's response only heightened Zhu Ping's satisfaction. Why don't you come and meet your friend, Saint Skyrest? Yun Yizhen suddenly stepped forward and called out. It turned out that on their way to provide support, Yun Yizhen and the others had encountered the Eldarian Tao mastery ancestor. They had clashed fiercely, eventually capturing him. Saint Skyros was furious, but he knew that he could not escape. Behind Yun Yizhen, along with Zhu Ping, were the Tao mastery figures from the Pantheon sect and the Divine Shadow Gate. Their arrival spelled a total massacre for the foreign races. "One day, you humans will become slaves of our demon beast race," Saint Skyros roared. "Heh, I think you'll be our prisoner first," retorted Yun Yizhen. In the next moment, the Tao mastery saints no longer hesitated. The rules of the great Tao unfolded around them as they launched their assault on Saint Skyros. The battle that ensued was terrifying, akin to an apocalyptic downfall. Manifestations of the Tao gave rise to myriad phenomena, stars fell, and thunder prisons descended. Despite facing enemies many times his number, Saint Skyros fought with ferocious power. Yet the outcome of the battle was inevitable. Under the siege of several piers, escape was impossible for anyone. Moreover, Yun Yizhen and his companions were well prepared. This was a deadly trap, specifically set for these ancient ancestors of the foreign races. After this battle, the situation in the Floodgate realm facing the invasion from the three realms would significantly improve. Furthermore, the aggressive momentum of these realms would be severely dampened. In his final moments, Saint Skyros let out his last howl at the moon, falling under the combined might of numerous human Tao mastery saints. The sky over this region was enveloped in a hazy white light, marking the Tao demise triggered by Saint Skyros' death. This phenomenon was sensed by foreign cultivators across various regions, bringing an ominous premonition to their sects. For the group that had dared to venture from the eastern sky domain, their mission was finally accomplished. A significant threat to the human race was eradicated in one fell swoop. The Qian family and the Facian Gate had each lost a saint, while Zhu Ping and others, representing the Righteous Alliance, had accrued considerable merit for both of these sects. The Haoran sect and Thunderclap Valley also contributed significantly to this effort. Once affairs were settled, both sects would receive substantial rewards from the Righteous Alliance. Achieving such an incredible feat during these challenging times was nothing short of miraculous. With just 10 individuals, they had penetrated deep into enemy territory and decimated the core forces of 3 major foreign races, a task unfathomable to others, yet accomplished by Jiang Chengxuan and his team. Especially notable were Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who, despite being at the Tao Inception realm, managed to slay Tao fusion enemies. Jiang Chengxuan's Godslayer Heavenly Bead even obliterated a Tao mastery powerhouse. Their contribution to the mission's success was undeniable, leaving no room for dissatisfaction or rebuttal from the others. Even Zhu Ping and other Tao mastery saints were astounded by Jiang Chengxuan's formidable achievements upon learning about the mission's details. As soon as he entered Tao Inception, he completed a battle record that others might not have in their entire lives. This kid was terrifying. The Tao mastery saints of the Divine Shadow Gate and the Pantheon sect looked enviously at Zhu Ping. The Haoran faction would definitely rise in the future. Perhaps 2 Mahayana Dailords would appear at the same time. "Chengxuan, we need to hurry back to guard our domain. The rest of the cleanup will be entrusted to you." Zhu Ping approached Jiang Chengxuan with a smile. This time, the Haoran sect had made substantial gains from this venture. The other sects, Tao mastery saints, also nodded in agreement. They had taken time out of their busy schedules to provide support, and with responsibilities in their respective domains or facing the abyssal demons, they could not afford to be away for too long. Yun Yizhen also gave a few instructions to the people of Thunderclap Valley, praising Shen Ruyan for her efforts. This time, Thunderclap Valley had not suffered any casualties and had also slain a Tao fusion saint, marking significant achievements. As swiftly as they had arrived, the assembly of Tao mastery saints departed, leaving behind a battlefield strewn with ruins and a wealth of precious spoils of war. Jiang Chengxuan and his team quickly set about collecting the battlefield loot, acquiring numerous treasures suitable for Tao integration cultivators. Among these were treasures of immense value, such as heaven-connecting spiritual treasures, including the 9-headed serpent staff that belonged to Saint Ink Death. They also found unique materials for artifact forging and pill concocting, as well as various arrays. What was intended as traps for them turned into their rewards. Initially, the plan was to distribute the treasures based on contributions and the number of enemies slain, but Jiang Chengxuan proposed a different approach. Let the Qian family elder and the saint from Facian Gate who have suffered losses choose first. It's a regrettable event, and I hope this can serve as some form of compensation, Jiang Chengxuan suggested, a gesture that Shen Ruyan readily supported. This noble act earned them even greater respect from the other Dao integration saints, with the Cayenne family and Facian Gate expressing their heartfelt thanks. Following this arrangement, the spoils were divided, providing enough resources to nurture several new Dao integration cultivators for their sects. After all, these were the lifetimes of wealth accumulated by dozens of Dao integration foreign cultivators. With their spoils secured and their morale restored, the team was ready for further action. Let's move on. There are still sects and towns among the foreign races where the fleeing cultivators might be hiding, Jiang Chengxuan declared. Therefore, they targeted the sects and towns within the foreign lands, many of which had evolved from tribal settlements and were often governed by 2 or 3 different races. Starting with the triracial sacred city, they aimed to eliminate any Dao integration or void returning cultivators to prevent any future trouble. However, the battle in the sacred city was too terrifying. Many foreign cultivators had long fled. Their next destination was an exotic city known as East Sea City, ruled by deep-sea nomads. Hovering above the city, their Dao integration aura pressed down, instilling terror among the city's foreign cultivators who were baffled by the presence of human Dao integration cultivators in their midst. As their Dao integration divine sense swept through every corner of the city, a swift figure suddenly bolted, revealing themselves as one of the fleeing Dao integration deep-sea nomads. Burning all his dharmic power, he manifested his true form, darting through the void in an attempt to escape. He also deployed his innate divine power, spreading a black fog with illusionary effects through the void. But facing Jiang Chengxuan and his companions, this was nothing short of futility. As Shen Ruyan formed a spell, a dazzling 5-colored lightning bolt streaked through the sky, shattering all illusions. The deep-sea nomad's Dao rule was disrupted, a rebounding force halting the fleeing figure in its tracks. Then another beam of 5-colored divine light soared through the air, piercing the escapee's body and extinguishing all traces of life with a domineering force. It was Jiang Chengxuan's 5-colored divine light. The occurrence of a Dao demise above East Sea City, witnessed by all the foreign tribes present, underscored the human cultivators' killing of a Dao integration deep-sea nomad. The faces of the foreign cultivators within the city turned pale, dripping with cold sweat, as a sense of foreboding overwhelmed them. Could these humans have emerged from the sacred city? Rumors of the terrifying upheaval at the sacred city had already sown panic among the foreign cultivators. Now, witnessing the human cultivators openly hunting down Dao integration, powerhouses only fueled their fears further. They dreaded the possibility that the human cultivator army had penetrated the sacred city and wondered if their own powerhouses had already fallen. Could it be that the era of the foreign races had ended just like that? No one could provide them with an answer. Jiang Chengxuan, however, was not interested in pursuing these weaker foreign cultivators. Once the conflict ceased, human cultivators would naturally take over the territories. After collecting the battle spoils from the fallen deep-sea nomad, Jiang Chengxuan led his group onward, flying towards the next city. Relying on the intelligence gathered, they had a clear understanding of the main foreign strongholds. By systematically eliminating the remaining Dao integration cultivators of the foreign tribes, they would effectively end the foreign dominance over this land. Outside the Floodgate realm, Tianyao, Tianling, and Shanghai realms simultaneously received the news of the annihilation of their 3 major foreign races within, sparking outrage among their leadership. Human cultivators had audaciously launched a surprise attack right under their noses, dismantling their critical arrangements in the Floodgate realm. Reports indicated that numerous human Dao mastery cultivators had converged to slay Saint Skyrest. Had they launched a full-scale attack then, the Floodgate realm might have already been breached. The humans' risky maneuver, which they had entirely overlooked, had cost them a crucial opportunity. Now, with the fall of their elite combatants, the foreign races within the Floodgate realm were as good as obliterated. The foreign races in the Floodgate realm had actually been in contact with the 3 realms for a long time. When the 3 realms cooperated to break through the Floodgate realm, they could be integrated back into their race. The intelligence and disruption provided by these foreign races were crucial to the 3 realms' strategies against the Floodgate realm, effectively acting as their eyes within enemy lines. But with these eyes, now gouged out by the human cultivators, their fury was understandable. The audacity of these humans to provoke us so, to exterminate the foreign races right when we were poised to attack, roared a high-ranking official from one of the realms beyond. In the meeting place of the three realms, every face was etched with grim anger and frustration. The human cultivators' decisive strike was a direct affront to their collective might. Relying on the foreign races for intelligence and harassment had given them an edge in their campaign against the floodgate realm. The humans' bold action to sever this lifeline had left them blindsided. It made some of the prepared actions unable to be carried out. This human strategy was too ruthless and decisive, disrupting many of our arrangements, commented a powerful being from the Eldarian race. Plans specifically tailored for the floodgate realm were now rendered useless without their insiders. In my opinion, we should strike immediately with all our might. With the combined strength of the three realms, is the floodgate realm truly unassailable? A deep-sea giant covered in eerie purple scales argued furiously. Already dissatisfied with the prolonged siege, the removal of the foreign races from the equation only fueled his rage. Attack the floodgate realm head-on. Are we to court mutual destruction? Another high-ranking leader retorted, highlighting the strategic folly of a direct assault given the floodgate realm's inherent advantages. Indeed, we embarked on this war for the new world they discovered, not a reckless sacrifice, stated a leader. Their participation was motivated by potential gains rather than vendettas, and they would be the first to retreat should the risks outweigh the benefits. HMPH. The deep-sea powerhouse's discontent was evident in his cold snort. In his view, all foreign races should fully mobilize against the floodgate realm, with the spoils of war divided according to contributions. Those who exerted less effort should simply be cast aside. How else do you propose we proceed? Shall we just wait for hundreds of years, letting the floodgate realm consume the new world's resources? The deep-sea nomad, marked by his purple scales, retorted. His words plunged many into deep thought. If the conflict were to drag on for centuries, what would be the point of breaching the floodgate realm if the human race had already exploited the new world's resources and were poised to counterattack? It seems to me that the abyssal demons of the new world wouldn't be so easily subdued by the floodgate realm, spoke a demon beast saint. The abyssal demons, universally despised entities of the new world, now appear to be likely allies in their struggle. As opinions clashed among the foreign races' leadership, proposals ranged from launching a final assault, temporarily withdrawing to strategize, to issuing threats before committing to a decisive attack. Eventually, the discussion shifted away from the annihilation of their counterparts in the floodgate realm. Perhaps we could attempt to contact the abyssal demons. What do you think? Suggested a Daelord from the demon beast's sky-devouring serpent clan. The mention of abyssal demons momentarily stunned the assembly. The prospect of allying with such a notorious race, infamous throughout the spiritual realm for their destructiveness, was something none had previously considered. Other beings had always subconsciously kept a distance from such a race. Yet the suggestion by a figure of authority prompted them to ponder the feasibility of such an alliance. Could the abyssal demons be their allies? We don't have to trust those abyssal demons, just send them a message, a proposal for a transaction, the Daelord from the sky-devouring serpent clan elaborated. The abyssal demons might not be trustworthy, but they too are troubled by the floodgate realm's humans. This we can exploit. The new world was initially dominated by the abyssal demons before being overtaken by the floodgate realm, which has since established strongholds to suppress them. I believe they harbor a deep hatred towards the cultivators of the floodgate realm. All we need is for the abyssal demons to launch a major offensive against the floodgate realm now. That should suffice. Exploitation was the crux of the sky-devouring serpent clan saint's strategy. By leveraging the abyssal demons' enmity towards the floodgate realm, they aimed to create a new front in the conflict, complicating the humans' defensive efforts. What do you think? He asked, his status as a venerable leader within the demon beast race lending weight to his proposal. He was qualified to represent the demon beast race. Therefore, he only needed to obtain the opinions of the other two races. The deep-sea nomads agree. The belligerent deep-sea Daelord instantly supported the idea of contacting the abyssal demons. No matter what kind of demon it is, as long as we can kill the cultivators of the floodgate realm, they will be our helpers. In his opinion, even if there were no benefits, killing the cultivators of the floodgate realm was enough. From a certain point of view, he was quite similar to the abyssal demon. The demon beast and deep-sea nomad leaders then looked towards the Eldarian Daelord, awaiting his opinion. "How shall we deal with the abyssal demons once the floodgate realm is breached?" inquired the Eldarian Daelord, voicing a crucial concern. "Kill," the sky-devouring serpent clan's Daelord stated simply. "Very well," the elders agree. The Eldarian Daelord nodded. With that, the sky-devouring serpent clan's Daelord produced an array disk imbued with the sinister energy. Some veteran Daelords could smell that it belonged to the abyssal demons. It was the conduit through which a message from the three realms would be delivered into the world of the abyssal demons. In the midst of the ominous array, demonic chi swirled continuously. However, under the suppression of the foreign Daelords, they could only squeeze into a semicircle. It formed a black crystal ball the size of a door. Demonic chi kept surging. It had been a long time since the foreign Daelords had sent the message in. Bang! Suddenly, the entire array vibrated sharply as a massive finger pressed against the shield from the inside. The eyes of the upper echelons of the foreign races lit up. The abyssal demons were here. Before finalizing this plan, they harbored disdain for the abyssal demons, but now they eagerly awaited their arrival. A mere abyssal channel warrants the attention of so many Daelords. A distinctly eerie voice emerged from the sphere, its gender indiscernible. "After all, it is our first contact with your kind. Caution is justified." The Daelord from the sky-devouring serpent clan addressed the abyssal demon. He had activated an array capable of opening a channel to the abyssal demon's domain, the Maw of Abyss. The portal was small, allowing only low-level abyssal demons to pass, which suited their purposes for communication. Should the abyssal demons attempt any foul play through this channel, the foreign Daelords were confident in their ability to suppress it. This careful planning revealed the meticulousness of the demon beast Daelord. Once the channel connected to the Maw of Abyss, the abyssal demons could locate it or open it from their side using special methods. If the abyssal demons were to come before the floodgate realm was conquered, it would be the foreign realms, not the humans, who would have inadvertently invited disaster. After all, the abyssal demons were such unreasonable mad dogs. As soon as they had the chance, they would tear a piece of meat off anything. "Hee, I didn't expect our abyssal demon race to have such a great reputation. Ha ha ha." The abyssal demon laughed from beyond the array. The foreign realms leaders frowned. Using such an attitude to communicate was really in line with the personality of the abyssal demons. It was very displeasing. "The renown of your kind is indeed well known across the spiritual realm," the sky-devouring serpent clan's Daelord remarked, unfazed by the abyssal demon's provocation. "Hey, you abyssal demons, have you seen our message?" The deep-sea nomad purple-scaled Daelord suddenly bellowed, maintaining his pride even in the face of the abyssal entities. "A person from the deep-sea race. You fit right in with the Maw of Abyss. Ever considered joining my race? It's quite thrilling here," the abyssal demon retorted, ignoring the inquiry and instead teasing the deep-sea Daelord. "HMPH, there's nothing in the Maw of Abyss, and female abyssal demons are even uglier. Don't try to tempt me," the deep-sea Daelord scoffed. The abyssal demon burst into laughter instead of being angry. "Desire for sex, what's the point? Only destruction and ruin offer true exhilaration." His boisterous laughter sent shivers down some of the foreign leaders' spines. "Enough talk, what do you think about our proposal?" one of the leaders pressed on. "The floodgate realm's humans have taken the world you first coveted. Don't you wish to devour them?" inquired the Daelord from the Eldarian race, bringing the discussion back to their strategic interests. "Floodgate realm. If not for the fact that our abyssal demon race is not favored by the rules of the world, how could we let them tread on our heads?" The abyssal demon's voice sharpened suddenly, betraying their deep-seated hatred for the floodgate realm. Unbeknownst to the foreign leaders, several Mahayana Daelords from the floodgate realm had previously ventured into the New World and slain some of the abyssal demons. "A world such as the new one belongs to those with virtue," stated the Eldarian Daelord. "The human race of the floodgate realm is trying to take it for themselves. They really don't take us seriously." "Oh, so you two covet the new world?" the abyssal demon inquired, seizing on the hint of interest. "Indeed, who wouldn't be tempted by such a new world?" admitted the demon beast Daelord openly. At this, the demonic chi surged, causing the array to tremble intensely. But the demon beast Daelord quickly added, "If the abyssal demons assist us in taking down the floodgate realm, we are willing to renounce our claims on the new world." His statement caused an uproar. The deep-sea Daelord frowned, protesting. You never mentioned this before. The Eldarian Daelord also appeared contemplative, his brow furrowed in thought. However, the sky-devouring Serpent Clan's Daelord pressed on, unfazed by the dissent. What say you to this deal? He proposed. We want you to exert your full strength in assaulting the New World, to distract the Floodgate Realm's forces. Afterward, the Floodgate Realm will be ours, and the New World yours. The assembly fell silent at his words. It seems you are quite sincere, the abyssal demon eventually responded after a pause. There were 2 worlds in total. The demon beasts, deep-sea nomads, Eldars were to take one world, with the abyssal demons claiming the other. This was an immensely favorable arrangement for the abyssal demons. If not for the sky-devouring Serpent Clan's prestigious standing, chaos would have ensued among the foreign factions. How about it? Originally, we abyssal demons did not join forces with anyone, the abyssal demon began. But given your evident sincerity, we'll reluctantly agree to your proposal. After consulting with other abyssal demons behind him, the abyssal demon finally accepted the Trirealm's proposal. Thus, the abyssal demons formally allied with the demon beasts, deep-sea nomads, and Eldars to jointly assault the Floodgate Realm. Excellent, we can start planning immediately. We await your signal, said the sky-devouring Serpent Clan's Daelord. With that, he closed the channel to the Maw of Abyss, concluding the negotiation. Demon Beast, you owe us an explanation. You never mentioned before that you'd give the New World to the abyssal demons. The deep-sea Daelord finally burst out in anger. Since when do we need to keep promises with abyssal demons? Retorted the Serpent Daelord. The deep-sea Daelord was suddenly at a loss for words. Indeed, was there ever a need to speak of honesty with the abyssal demons? The assembly was stunned. They didn't expect they, as Daelords, would actually do such a thing. Wouldn't that make them even more shameless than the abyssal demons? But then, has anyone ever spoken of integrity in dealings with the abyssal demons? This question truly stumped them. After all, history had never recorded any dealings with the abyssal demons that were acknowledged. Because even if you did deceive the abyssal demons, others would only cheer you on. However, will the abyssal demons let this slide so easily? Someone inquired. Even if we don't renege, the abyssal demons surely will, explained the Serpent Daelord. This transaction is merely a show to keep up appearances among our realms. What we can actually secure will depend on our own strength. This time everyone was enlightened. Perhaps from the very beginning, this Daelord had considered both the Floodgate Realm and the abyssal demons as their enemy to be eliminated. In the New World, where the humans settled down, the defensive forces had been thinned significantly due to the concerted invasion by the 3 realms. The sites connecting to the Maw of Abyss, previously guarded by a coalition of 3 sects dispatching 5 to 6 Dao integration saints, were now left with only 2. Fortunately, during the 3 realms' assault on the barrier, the abyssal demons had launched only minor probes rather than a full-scale attack. Therefore, the New World had been peaceful for so long. At a station of the Pantheon sect, Sun Longxiang and All Heaven were on their routine patrol. I wonder how the situation is at the barrier. It should be fine. When our time here is up, we should go to the barrier to continue guarding. The 2 of them chatted about the situation at the barrier. Now that it was the chaotic period of the Floodgate Realm, the Dao integration saints were the main force of the realm and the busiest. Suddenly, amidst the howling wilderness and swirling dust, they sensed an ominous presence in the air. Fortunately, they had guarded the entrance of the Maw of Abyss for a long time and were able to capture this abnormality. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't be able to notice it. Demonic Qi, something's not right, move. Sun Longxiang reacted first, pulling All Heaven away swiftly. As they evacuated, the desolate ground exploded in a burst of deep red and black. Where they had just stood, a small obelisk broke through the earth, oozing with malevolent energy. This is bad, the abyssal demons are attempting to forcibly expand the portal. We need backup, All Heaven exclaimed, immediately sending out an alert. The message of the abyssal demons attempting to breach the realm spread rapidly across the New World's defense points. Not only at the Pantheon sect's location, but alarms were also raised throughout the New World. This New World was infiltrated by the abyssal demons in the first place. Although the Daelords had previously managed to suppress the Maw of Abyss with arrays, this world wasn't the Floodgate Realm after all. Even the floodgate realm's Daelords couldn't completely suppress the maw of abyss here, due to the inherent limitations of not being in their birth realm. That was why they needed to send people to guard it at all times. They knew very well that the abyssal demons definitely had a way to open the portal. Now the abyssal demons had indeed arrived, but no one expected that, after a century of relative quiet, their resurgence would herald such a comprehensive onslaught. The obelisks emerging from the ground were actually abyssal fortresses. After notifying their strongholds, all heaven and sun Longxing didn't hesitate to attack the obelisks, unleashing powerful spells. Rumble. The power of Tao integration created a massive crater in the ground, yet the eerie, sinister obelisk remained unaffected. The next moment it erupted with demonic chi, growing even taller. Instantly, the atmosphere was filled with an ominous mist, as dark red fissures appeared on the surface. Countless roars echoed as a horde of abyssal demons, some like black shadows and others like twisted masses of flesh, surged out, quickly covering the ground around the obelisk. Die! The battle between the abyssal demons and the defenders erupted fiercely. This scene was replicated across every defended location in the New World. Dark red portals to the maw of abyss opened up one after another, marking the New World with scars of impending doom. Calamity was unleashed as the demons attacked. The people of the Floodgate realm soon received news of the abyssal demons' comprehensive invasion of the New World. The previously relaxed atmosphere, following the elimination of the foreign races within their realm, suddenly turned tense again. The upper echelons of the various sects quickly gathered and began to discuss the invasion of the abyssal demons. In the council hall, super sect leaders like Yun Yizhen and Zhu Ping were present, with Daelords such as Qin Shenwu occupying the seats of authority. They took the invasion by the abyssal demons very seriously, considering them among the most brutal creatures in existence. All defended locations in the New World are under attack. The abyssal demons have already opened the portals to the maw of abyss. It seems they're serious this time. Someone from the Pantheon sect quickly reported the situation to everyone. The abyssal demons had used abyssal fortresses to breach and even expand and fortify the portals, indicating they were readying for a full-scale war with the Floodgate realm. We need to dispatch reinforcements to all locations. The invasion by the three realms had led us to withdraw too many from these defended locations, another sect leader added. Calls for aid were being sent from every sect. The abyssal demons were challenging enough to contend with, and a lack of manpower could spell disaster. Send reinforcements immediately. Transport battle supplies first, and don't skimp on talismans or spiritual treasures, advised a Daelord from the Pantheon sect sitting on the highest seat. Unless the situation was beyond salvageable, Daelords could not easily intervene. A direct confrontation between Daelords could potentially destroy the New World itself. On this point, the abyssal demons had a tacit understanding and didn't let Daelords involve. Now that the foreign races have been eradicated and the pressure on the barrier has significantly decreased, should we consider reallocating some forces back here? Suggested Yun Yizhen, the sect master of Thunderclap Valley. Previously, he was in charge of guarding the barrier, but had later participated in the suppression of foreign saints, received the news of the abyssal demon invasion on his return, and rushed to join the discussion. The assembly began to weigh this option. In fact, the situation at the barrier was not optimistic, but after the foreign races in the Floodgate realm were eliminated, the attacks of the three realms slowed down a lot. Meanwhile, at the barrier, many cultivators from various sects had just retreated to their camps from the front lines. The ferocious foreign races had suddenly ceased their advance half a day ago, providing a brief respite to the defenders. After enduring continuous battles for a year, the barrier had been noticeably worn down by the attacks, with both foreign and human sides suffering heavy casualties. Taking advantage of this brief pause, the cultivators guarding the barrier took the opportunity to consume healing pills, cultivate, and repair their spiritual treasures, enjoying a rare moment of relaxation. Roar! Suddenly, a war cry from beyond the Floodgate realm's barrier tensed every nerve again. A massive wave of demonic chi rolled in from the horizon. The armies of the three realms are attacking again. Prepare for battle. The alarm for war, which had only ceased for half a day, was sounded once more as the three realms launched their second comprehensive offensive. The flames of war were reignited across all 9 domains of the Floodgate realm, almost simultaneously. Even figures like Saint Rosy Cloud, who had temporarily withdrawn from the eastern sky domain, re-entered the fray. Quick, request reinforcements from the floodgate realm. With Daelords from the three realms taking action, capable of destroying heavens and earth, the situation became dire. With the commencement of the Great War by the three realms, the situation immediately turned exceedingly dire. The combined forces of the three realms launched their full strength without the initial probing tactics of their first assault. Dao fusion cultivators from the foreign realms, wielding the destructive power to ravage heavens and earth, clashed fiercely with the cultivators of the floodgate realm. Their bloodline divine powers and techniques clashed across the void. Some Dao mastery saints from the foreign realms even managed to slay Dao integration cultivators from the human side in an instant, forcing the humans to use their life-saving trump cards to barely fend them off. In the eastern sky domain, the five great demon beast saints led their forces to the barrier once again. Saint Pingnan, with his earth-shattering steps, left mountains and rivers in ruins. Saint Titan Peak, carrying mountains on his back, breached the void with his arrival. Saint Inferno, leaving the ground-scorched earth in his wake, turned everything to ashes. Saint Skybearer stirred up storms, covering the floodgate realm with ominous clouds. And Saint Rosy Cloud of the sky-devouring serpent clan, traversing thousands of miles through the void, devoured everything in her path. Scouts responsible for reconnaissance within the eastern sky domain were quickly discovered and eliminated by the five great demon saints. One of the scouts managed to send a warning back to the camp just before his demise. Enraged members of the Haoran sect in Thunderclap Valley soon crossed the void to confront the demon beast forces within and outside the eastern sky domain. Meanwhile, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and their party had not yet returned, leaving the defensive forces in this domain significantly weakened. The defense was temporarily led by Leng Yuehua and Wen Yuxiao, experienced Dao integration cultivators, who, along with the protective Grand Array, ensured that the area wouldn't be easily overrun. Still, they harbored worries, uncertain about the situation within the rest of the floodgate realm. Before they arrived, requests for reinforcements had already been sent to the rear of the Haoran sect. They hoped for a swift response, as the enemy's momentum was ferocious. Rumble! The demon beast army did not waste any time. Their attacks began to explode on the barrier. With a wave of her hand, Leng Yuehua swiftly positioned the cultivators behind her, and with surging magical power, the Grand Protective Array was activated once again. However, due to her lacking the foundational knowledge in arrays compared to Jiang Chengxuan, it was slightly less effective. Outside the barrier, the five great demon saints unleashed their powers, igniting another fierce battle around the barrier. Soon, news of the three realms' renewed offensive reached the higher echelons, with messages for help flooding the communications. In the council hall, where discussions about reinforcing the new world and exterminating the abyssal demons were underway, everyone was taken aback. The three realms had launched a full-scale attack as well. The abyssal demons had just invaded in full force a moment ago. Could this be a coincidence? The situation in the floodgate realm, which had been improving, suddenly found itself in a dire strait, caught between two powerful forces. In an instant, everyone present sensed something amiss. They were experienced figures in the cultivation world, well-versed in human nature, let alone the inherently untrustworthy foreign races. The demon beasts, deep-sea nomads and eldars must have made contact with the abyssal demons, likely even striking a deal to jointly oppose the people of the floodgate realm. These foreign races have actually conspired with the abyssal demons. The Daelord of the Pantheon sect slammed his fist down in anger. Everyone's expression turned grave and filled with indignation. These foreign tribes truly have no shame, a bunch of beasts. The abyssal demons were considered a common enemy of all cultivators, purely malevolent beings that knew only destruction and slaughter. Conspiring with such entities was despised by all cultivators. Throughout their lives, cultivators sought the Tao, with the abyssal demons being antithetical to the Tao, meriting unanimous condemnation and eradication. For foreign cultivators to collude with them was akin to courting death. Yet the reality before them indicated that before the abyssal demons could potentially consume the three foreign realms, the floodgate realm would first have to endure attacks from both sides, finding itself in a pincer. The situation now seemed as if they were the condemned race in the spiritual realm, besieged by various races. With this, it's certain we can't spare any forces from the barrier. What to do about the abyssal demons then? Moreover, many domains at the barrier also need support, but now we're completely unable to spare any hands, said the Daelord of the Divine Shadow Gate with a grave expression. Silence fell, as the dilemma appeared unsolvable. Let us have the New World retract its defense lines first, stretching the battle line and focusing on defending crucial resource points, finally spoke Qin Shenwu. Compared to the Floodgate realm, despite the abundant resources in the New World, the core interests of all sects lay within the Floodgate realm, making it paramount. By stretching the battle line in the New World, they would adopt a defensive strategy, allowing the defenders there to hold out as long as possible. As long as the precious resource locations were not taken, they didn't care about other places. That's the only way. The Daelord of the Pantheon sect also agreed with this proposal. However, the forces in the New World are still too sparse. We need to reinforce them. As for the domains, send orders for mutual support among the domains, he further added. The vastness of the 9 domains made precise troop movements challenging, necessitating that the sects lend strength to one another. The situation in the Floodgate realm quickly turned dire, substantially increasing the pressure on everyone involved. Let's proceed with that plan, everyone. We're relying on you to mobilize additional forces, the 3 great Daelords said as they concluded the meeting. Yun Yizhen, Zhu Ping, and the others stood up, their expressions grave as they nodded in agreement. Without any hesitation, the sect leaders hurried off to the place their sect was in charge of guarding. The Grand Council Hall was left eerily empty and quiet. This time, the situation in the Floodgate realm was at its most critical. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and his companions finally received the news. The collusion between the 3 realms and the abyssal demons, launching a full-scale attack on both the New World and the barrier, struck them like thunder. They all understood the catastrophe facing the Floodgate realm, with the 3 realms conspiring with the abyssal demons. Fortunately, they had already eliminated all Dao integration and above-level foreign cultivators within the Floodgate realm. Otherwise, an internal rebellion from these foreign cultivators could have led to unimaginable consequences. We must hurry back, Jiang Chengxuan declared solemnly to the group. Everyone nodded in agreement. In this battle, we've seized many offensive treasures from the foreign races. Let's dispatch a few people to take them to the New World for defending against the abyssal demons. Jiang Chengxuan suddenly had an idea. Following his arrangement, Thunderclap Valley and the Haoran sect each dispatched 2 Dao integration cultivators to support the New World. The remaining 5, led by Jiang Chengxuan, would rush back to the Eastern Sky Domain at full speed. As the battle between the Eastern Sky Domain and the Demon Beast forces intensified, Leng Yuehua found herself increasingly stretched thin under the relentless assault of several Dao fusion demon saints. With Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, 2 key combatants, absent, and the loss of 4 sect saints, relying solely on the protective Grand Array was proving to be insufficient to turn the tide. Moreover, an unexpected presence among the Demon Beast army added to their dire straits. It was a new Dao Mastery Saint. This formidable entity, a gigantic green-scale serpent capable of devouring stars, specialized in primordial spirit attacks. Because of his existence, the Haoran sect and Thunderclap Valley had been losing members. Many cultivators had their primordial spirits destroyed by his divine power and died silently. This also put immense pressure on the people guarding the Eastern Sky. With the situation worsening, the barrier of the Eastern Sky Domain was on the verge of collapse. Leng Yuehua, despite her efforts to maintain the Grand Array, was exhausted, and the damage inflicted by the enemy was outpacing the array's repair capabilities. The barrier now sported numerous cracks, more severe than any previous conflicts. Outside, a massive minotaur continued to shake the barrier, while divine flames threatened to burn through, opening a passage for the demon beast forces. Junior brother Chengxuan, please come back quickly. Leng Yuehua couldn't help but pray inwardly. As if in answer to her prayers, a brilliant 5-colored divine light suddenly appeared in the sky. The divine light, covering thousands of miles in an instant, pierced through the barrier and into the midst of the demon beast forces. Its overpowering might instantly annihilated a swath of demon beasts, including Dao integration-level combatants. Jiang Chengxuan had returned. This 5-colored divine light proclaimed his comeback, significantly easing the Haoran sect's burden and boosting morale. For a long time, Jiang Chengxuan had established his prestige among everyone. Not to be outdone, Shen Ruyan unleashed a devastating strike of the five elements divine thunder, which exploded amidst the demon beasts, turning a large number of them to ash. The formidable return of the duo inflicted heavy casualties on the demon beast forces, significantly lifting the spirits of those defending the eastern sky domain. The demon beast saints, including Saint Rosy Cloud, eyed Jiang Chengxuan's arrival with cold hostility. The green scale serpent saint inquired, "Is this the enemy you mentioned, the one unaffected by your cloud poison?" "Yes." After the previous retreat, Saint Rosy Cloud reported back to her clan about the situation in the eastern sky domain. Subsequently, the demon beast race sent another Dao fusion saint from the sky-devouring serpent clan, specifically to counter Jiang Chengxuan. Elder Leng were back. Jiang Chengxuan quickly arrived beside Leng Yuehu and greeted her. "Yes, it's good that you're back." Leng Yuehu could not help but heave a sigh of relief. "Elder Leng let me operate this array. You rest for a while," Jiang Chengxuan said to Leng Yuehu. Leng Yuehu did not hesitate and handed the array disk to Jiang Chengxuan. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Jiang Chengxuan quickly connected to the barrier protection array. The entire array suddenly surged with dharmic power. It was as if it was welcoming the return of its true master back. Rumble. The array unleashed its formidable strength, with Shen Ruyan joining its core, bolstering its defenses. The attacking demon beast saints, including Saint Pingnan, immediately felt an increased resistance, and the barrier began to repair itself more rapidly. "Damn it, those despicable human cultivators!" Saint Inferno raged as the once vulnerable barrier became fortified once again. However, Saint Rosy Cloud did not show anger this time, but instead smirked coldly. "It's your turn, Saint Jade Arcanum," she said to the green scale serpent beside her. Nodding slightly, the serpent roared and soared into the sky like a dragon, its bloodline power wildly surging as it unleashed its innate divine power. Suddenly, a giant green lake appeared in the sky, its rule-infused waters pouring down. The cascading rain penetrated the barrier and fell upon the grand protective array, causing it to start shrinking. This was one of the Saint Jade Arcanum's divine powers, the array-breaking emerald rain, capable of weakening any array until it extinguished. Even with Jiang Chengxuan's full effort, the array couldn't completely shield it, only delaying it slightly. Immediately, the eastern sky domain's barrier trembled again as the protective array weakened, allowing the demon beast saints' attacks to become effective once more, and the situation quickly deteriorated. Everyone's hearts were in their throats, and even Jiang Chengxuan found himself at a loss for what to do. Could it really be that we have to face a direct confrontation with the demon beasts? 5 Lightning Immortal Slayer. Shen Ruyan, her eyes cold, summoned the 5 Lightning Immortal Slayer, directing it at Saint Jade Arcanum performing the divine power. However, a colorful poisonous cloud enveloped the area, causing the sword to lose its direction. Clearly, the enemy had come prepared, waiting for Jiang Chengxuan to be occupied with the array before using their divine powers to breach it. Beasts die. But at that moment, a mighty righteous energy targeted Saint Jade Arcanum, containing the power of a Dao Mastery Saint, forcing him to reluctantly retreat. Instantly, the array-breaking emerald rain ceased, and the grand array was restored. Sect Master. Leng Yuehua, upon seeing who had come to their aid, joyfully exclaimed. It was none other than Zhu Ping, the sect master of the Heoran sect, arriving just in time to avert the crisis. Sect Master, Jiang Chengxuan also felt a wave of relief and joy. Zhu Ping nodded to everyone, then launched another spell, driving back the demon beast saints assaulting the barrier. His power at the peak of Dao Mastery was indeed terrifying. Realizing they stood no chance against such might, the demon beasts acknowledged the futility of their assault, and a stalemate ensued on the battlefield. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly felt an unusual surge of spiritual awareness within him. The bottleneck to his Dao fusion realm seemed to be loosening, an opportunity too precious to miss. With Zhu Ping now present to secure the eastern sky domain, Jiang Chengxuan felt it was the perfect moment to seize this chance. Ruyan, I think something is happening to me. He quickly informed both Zhu Ping and Shen Ruyan of his situation. Surprised at first, they were soon overjoyed, urging him to immediately enter seclusion to break through. As long as Jiang Chengxuan broke through, the situation of the human race would definitely be much better. They had such confidence in him. After briefly parting from his companions, Jiang Chengxuan left the eastern sky domain. The spark of enlightenment within him continued to transform, and he was unwilling to extinguish it, knowing doing so would significantly impact his cultivation path. Choosing to defend the eastern sky domain without entering seclusion would drastically reduce his combat effectiveness. Extinguishing this chance for breakthrough could hinder his path of cultivation, possibly trapping him at the Tao Inception realm for hundreds of years, a consequence neither he nor the Haoran sect and the human race wished to see. Considering the urgency of the battle situation, Jiang Chengxuan knew that his breakthrough into the Tao fusion realm needed to be both stable and swift. Once he had moved a sufficient distance from the eastern sky domain to ensure the battle would not affect him, he found a secluded mountain cave as his place for breakthrough. The location, with its flowing streams, waterfalls, and peculiar rocks, was ideal for a cultivator of the 5 elements like himself. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan laid out a series of arrays around the cave's perimeter. The outermost layer was designed for alerts and to confuse potential enemies. The middle layer gathered spiritual qi and secured the location's feng shui, and inside the cave were arrays to assist with the breakthrough. These arrays, while not particularly unique, were efficiently set up by Jiang Chengxuan in less than half a day. Entering the temporary cave abode, Jiang Chengxuan sat down cross-legged within the array, slowly expanding his spiritual sense to connect with the surrounding environment. He nurtured the spark of enlightenment within him, extending his awareness to encompass all living beings around him. Slowly, the powers of the 5 elements arose from all things, taking the form of 5 divine lights that enveloped the world. The nascent form of the 5 elements, Tao, became more refined. This was the Tao Inception realm that Jiang Chengxuan had reached. The rules of the Tao appeared in 5 colors: red, blue, yellow, brown, and green, representing the supreme laws that encompass all things and carry the operation of the world. Yet for Jiang Chengxuan, these were still external aids rather than part of his essence. The Tao Inception realm signified the 5 elements, Tao's acknowledgement of him, allowing him to manipulate the rules of the 5 elements. However, the Tao fusion realm required the cultivator to merge with the Tao comprehended, becoming one with it. Fully immersed in the state of breakthrough, Jiang Chengxuan pushed his strength to the peak of the Tao Inception realm. He sensed a barrier between himself and the 5 elements Tao. He knew that this was the bottleneck. Thus, he released the spark of enlightenment, gradually dissolving the invisible bottleneck. As the essence of the 5 elements Tao flowed from the broken bottleneck, Jiang Chengxuan immediately felt an unparalleled closeness. The Tao began to slowly merge with him, centering on him as the core, as the world's phenomena evolved around him. Erupting earth fire, sky-reaching water torrents, accumulating metals and stones, burgeoning forests and rising lands. Within this, life began to come into being and mystical powers grew. Jiang Chengxuan officially stepped into the threshold of Tao fusion, with everything falling into place naturally. However, fully integrating the vast Tao of the 5 elements would require time and gradual fusion. At this moment, in the eastern sky domain, unknowingly, 7 days had passed since Jiang Chengxuan departed for his Tao fusion breakthrough. During this period, the Demon Beast army launched several probing attacks, but nothing substantial occurred until today, when alarming news reached the temporary camp of the Haoran sect. The Cayenne family and Facian Gate are calling for help. The enemy has deployed a Tao Mastery Demon Beast saint skilled in breaking arrays. Zhu Ping's expression turned grave upon hearing this. It was clear that the Demon Beasts were executing a strategic move, with Saint Jade Arcanum likely attempting to divide and conquer by drawing him away from critical areas. In this way, even if he was at the peak of Tao Mastery realm, he would be led by the nose by the enemy. However, even though he knew, he was helpless. Understanding the enemy's tactics but left with little choice, Zhu Ping informed Leng Yuehua and promptly set out to provide assistance elsewhere. Just half an hour after Zhu Ping's departure, Saint Rosie Sealoud and her forces launched another assault on the barrier, reigniting the conflict. In Jiang Chengxuan's absence, Leng Yuehua took charge of the protective array, managing to hold the line but just barely. Fortunately, Shen Ruyan had returned with Jiang Chengxuan this time, allowing the eastern sky domain to have another main combat force. Across the barrier, the brutal clash between the human and demon beast races resumed. The ongoing battle resulted in numerous casualties on both sides, with demon corpses strewn across the battlefield, gruesomely mutilated by various spells. As Shen Ruyan controlled the lightning to attack, she arrived in front of Saint Pingnan, who was attacking the barrier. The three demon beast saints were relentless, causing substantial damage to the barrier. With a cold flash in her eyes, Shen Ruyan unleashed the 5 lightning immortal slayer, targeting the mountain core being used to undermine the barrier. A fierce burst of lightning erupted in the sky, the terrifying power of the thunder making even the demon beast saints shudder. My mountain core, damn it! Saint Titan Peak hastily retrieved his mountain core, only to find it chipped by the 5 lightning immortal slayer. Despite being just a small chip, it represented a massive loss, equivalent to the essence of numerous mountains. Shen Ruyan's strike significantly weakened Saint Titan Peak. This time a woman came. Do you really think this is all we got? Saint Inferno roared, unleashing a sea of flames that seemed capable of scorching the heavens, transforming the sky into a blazing inferno. Faced with Dao integration-level power, Shen Ruyan did not dare to underestimate her opponent. Holding the 5 lightning immortal slayer in one hand and forming seals with the other, she summoned the 5 elements divine thunder. Heavenly lightning illuminated the world, colliding with the equally formidable divine fire. Rumble! The aftermath of the colossal clash swiftly swept across 1,000 miles, forcing cultivators below the Dao integration to the fringes. Minotaur Force Strike. At this juncture, Saint Pingnan could no longer remain silent. His innate divine power burst forth, with a shadow of an ox demon beast, taller than the heavens, violently charging towards Shen Ruyan. Falling Thunder Seal. Shen Ruyan shouted, conjuring a massive celestial seal that plummeted like a mountain peak, fiercely suppressing the formidable force of the Minotaur demon beast. With her Dao Inception strength, Shen Ruyan managed to hold her own against the 3 demon beast saints, significantly slowing down the enemy's pace in breaching the barrier. Such battles unfolded across every corner of the Eastern Sky domain. The relentless and brutal conflict ensnared the domain entirely in the throes of war. Time swiftly passed, and several years went by. During this time, Jiang Chengxuan was secluded in his cultivation, striving for a breakthrough to the Dao fusion realm. Meanwhile, the situation across the 9 domains grew increasingly dire. Over these years, the situation across all 9 domains of the Floodgate realm was far from optimistic. Moreover, the onslaught from the abyssal demons in the New World didn't lessen in the slightest. As the conflict intensified, the New World saw significant territories fall under the control of the abyssal demons, forcing the human cultivators to retreat. During the period of Jiang Chengxuan's seclusion for his breakthrough, several crises occurred, with the Eastern Sky domain nearly losing its barrier 3 times. A year into the second full-scale war, St. Jade Arcanum launched a surprise attack on the Eastern Sky domain, breaching the protective barrier. Torrential barrier-breaking rains cascaded down like waterfalls, allowing the demon beast army to tear open a massive hole in the barrier, through which 3 Dao integration demon beast saints infiltrated. Shen Ruyan, Wen Yuxiao, and the elders of the Haoran sect managed to encircle them in time. However, the battle erupted within the domain itself, and many were unable to leave their posts to join the fight due to the need to sustain the protective barrier, leading to heavy casualties among the human cultivators. The 3 Dao integration demon beast saints, revealing their true monstrous forms within the Eastern Sky domain, wreaked havoc. Despite enduring attacks, they demolished numerous arrays and constructions with their formidable physical strength. They primarily avoided direct confrontations with Dao integration cultivators like Shen Ruyan, focusing instead on sabotaging various defensive setups, causing significant damage to the Eastern Sky domain. Moreover, under the destruction caused by the 3 Dao integration demon beast saints, the protective barrier was on the verge of collapse. It was only Leng Yuehua's desperate activation of the barrier that narrowly maintained it, though she was severely injured in the process. Shen Ruyan and others took this opportunity to eliminate the demon beast saints attempting to flee, killing them within the domain. Later, Zhu Ping arrived in time to prevent the domain from falling. He stayed in the Eastern Sky domain for half a year, leaving only after Leng Yuehua had recovered from her injuries with sufficient resources and resumed her position at the protective barrier. This battle caused the Eastern Sky to suffer a huge loss for the first time and be dragged into a quagmire. 2 years after this attack, the demon beast race dispatched another stealth attack. It occurred during a rare moment of peace, intended by the demons to lull the eastern heavenly domain's cultivators into a false sense of security. That night, human Dao integration cultivators were assassinated, and even Jiang Chengxuan's senior sister from the Heoran sect, Zai Xianyao, nearly lost her life. An Eldarian saint, borrowed by the demon beasts for his exceedingly peculiar innate divine power to pass through incomplete barriers, infiltrated the eastern sky domain. He aimed to sabotage the control disk of the protective barrier and assassinate Leng Yuehua. Fortunately, an elder from the Heoran sect happened to be nearby and encountered the Eldarian saint just as he was about to act, thwarting the demon beast race's plot. But under the unexpected and bizarre divine power of the Eldarian saint, the elder from the Heoran sect was ultimately slain on the spot. By the time Shen Ruyan and the others arrived, it was already a step too late. Filled with rage, they struck back, avenging the fallen Heoran sect elder by killing the Eldarian saint. That day, the human cultivators took the initiative to attack the demon beast army, launching a counterattack that ended with the slaying of numerous demon beasts, serving as a warning and bringing the incident to a close. Had the demon beast scheme succeeded, the consequences would have been unimaginable. If not for the fortuitous discovery by the Heoran sect elder, they might have indeed succeeded, leading to the inevitable fall of the eastern sky domain's barrier without the protective array. Reflecting on this now, everyone still breaks out in a cold sweat. They had a better understanding of the strangeness of the three realms. Another crisis, nearly breaching the eastern sky domain, occurred a few months ago. On that day, the demon beast army launched a full-scale attack, and the human defenders met them in battle, with the fight lasting several days and nights. However, this had become the new norm across all 9 domains. What was truly terrifying was the sudden eruption of an extremely horrifying demonic chi at another part of the barrier, while the fierce battle raged at the eastern sky domain's barrier. Initially, the defenders thought they were mistaken, but the pervasive demonic chi couldn't be faked. Shen Ruyan quickly led a team to investigate, only to discover the enemy was using some kind of demonic artifact from the abyssal demons to erode the barrier. Shen Ruyan immediately unleashed the 5 elements divine thunder against the demon beasts. However, these demon beasts, having chosen to fall into the demonic path, had significantly increased in strength. The human cultivators were taken aback to find that the demon beasts had indeed sought the abyssal demons' assistance to attack the barrier. Furthermore, this demonic artifact evidently had a strong destructive effect on the barrier. Given the abyssal demons' infamous reputation in the spiritual realm, they could be said to be very experienced in invading other worlds. This time, the demon beasts, having turned to demonic ways, presented a considerable challenge. By the time the defenders of the eastern sky domain arrived, the barrier had already suffered extensive corrosion, with demonic chi invading the domain. In the ensuing battle against the demon beasts that possessed the bizarre powers of the abyssal demons, the defenders were caught off guard, resulting in many injuries among the cultivators. Shen Ruyan single-handedly fought against a horde of demon beasts, relying on the restraining properties of the 5 elements divine thunder to barely protect the eastern sky domain's barrier from destruction. She activated the true thunder divine seal and used the primordial unified chi thunder to barely damage the enemy's demonic artifact. Following that, she single-handedly slew many of the demon beasts that had fallen into the demonic path. However, the battle was still very fierce, and many people, lacking means to defend against the demon beasts, suffered fatal attacks and ultimately perished. A large area of the eastern sky domain was contaminated with demonic chi, causing irreparable damage to the barrier. To this day, a demonic artifact still sticks out of that part of the eastern sky domain, constantly eroding the barrier. Despite numerous attempts, no one has been able to remove it. That area has become a significant wound on the barrier, a hidden danger planted by the demon beasts that could be triggered at any time. The eastern sky domain must send people to patrol that area daily to ensure peace of mind. Moreover, the continuous strong attacks by the demon beasts over the years have also caused a crisis for those defending the barrier on the frontal battlefield. Now, massive cracks can be seen everywhere on the barrier. According to Leng Yuehua's calculations, in no more than 3 months, the barrier will not hold and will be breached. Even with the barrier protection array, it could only ensure that the barrier would not completely shatter. However, repairing it was out of the question. This means that in 3 months, the demon beast army will be able to openly enter the eastern sky domain. By then, perhaps the most brutal battle, since the war began across the four realms in the eastern sky domain, will arrive. Soon, the demon beast army launched another assault on the barrier. At the encampment of the Haoran sect, the roars and thunderous sounds from the horizon could be heard. Everyone, this battle may very well result in the demon beast race breaking through the barrier. Once that happens, demon beast saints will surely enter our eastern sky domain. Please be extra cautious, Leng Yuehua informed everyone before they departed for the battlefield. She didn't want sudden developments to result in significant casualties. The members of the Haoran sect and the Thunderclap Valley, who had been defending the eastern sky domain for a long time, silently nodded in agreement. They would not choose to flee because of this warning. After years of war between the Floodgate realm and the Three Realms, they had experienced too many life-and-death situations. Over these years, countless comrades had died, and countless had narrowly escaped death, ultimately making breakthroughs. Moreover, with the abyssal demons causing chaos in the New World, the situation there was equally dire. Now, the Floodgate realm was truly on the brink of life and death, and the will of all cultivators had been tempered to an extremely firm state. In this world, there was no longer any place of peace. The flames of war were spreading everywhere. Under a fallen nest, there is no intact egg. They had no way out but to fight to the death. Perhaps others might betray or flee in other places, but the Haoran sect would have none do so. "Let's go to slay the demon beasts," someone in the group shouted, and then everyone headed to the front lines. At this moment, the battlefield had turned into a vast basin. Under the relentless bombardment of the demon beast race and the human cultivators, the entire battlefield had been lowered by hundreds of meters, becoming a massive pit. It was as if a star had once crashed here, immensely shocking. Within the pit, countless fragments of spiritual treasures and dharmic treasures fell, shimmering with light. Various bloodstains from the demon beasts dyed the ground in large patches of bizarre colors. Above the sky, the barrier was covered in fine lines, like a thin layer of ice refracting sunlight. In the distance, Saint Sky-Bearer flapped his wings, leading the celestial demon beasts in an attack from the air, bringing down tornadoes from the heavens. The people formed a line, skillfully summoning various spells to shoot towards the tornado. Green light, blue light, yellow light exploded in collision with the storm. Afterward, the battle fully erupted. Shenruyan summoned the five elements' divine thunder, waved her hand, and a sea of thunder poured forth. Saint Sky-Bearer summoned the power of the storm, and the two forces crushed against each other in the air, causing the heavens and the earth to change color. Next, a giant serpent shadow twisted within the storm, and Saint Rosy Cloud's cloud poison penetrated the barrier, spreading forth. Everyone hastily retreated. Without Jiang Chengshuan's five elements diagram, they had no way to directly confront the poison of this Tao Mastery Demon Saint. Then, when Yuxiao and other Tao integration saints unleashed their divine powers, bombarding Saint Rosy Cloud. Faced with the united force of several Tao integration saints, Saint Rosy Cloud did not dare to take the hit head-on and swerved through the void to avoid it. At this moment, the demon beast generals and the void returning cultivators clashed. They moved between the barriers, occasionally unleashing spells and dharmic treasures, spilling enemy blood on the spot. From Tao mastery to void returning from the air to the ground, this unprecedented battle swept through everything. The flames of war spread to every corner. The cultivators who used to be majestic in the cultivation world had now become cannon fodders of war. The spiritual treasures and talismans, once cherished and hoarded by these cultivators, were now flung at the enemy as if costless. Dharmic powers clashed in the air, throwing the energy field of the entire region into utter chaos. Saint Pingnan, Saint Titan Peak, and Saint Inferno once again made their presence known on the battlefield, their devastating attacks booming against the barrier. This time, the barrier teetered on the brink of collapse, like a flickering candle in the wind, threatening to extinguish at any moment. With every strike they delivered, fragments of the barrier scattered and cracks hissed ominously. The Tao integration cultivators of the Haoran sect in Thunderclap Valley swiftly moved to intercept them, but the three mighty demon beast saints, beings of Tao fusion themselves, were not so easily restrained. Engaged in battle with the defenders of the eastern sky domain, they continued their assault on the barrier. Within the protective array, Leng Yuehua persevered in her struggle. After consecutive battles, the dharmic powers available to sustain the protective array had dwindled significantly. Moreover, the accumulating damage to the barrier rendered it fragile, completely stripping it of its regenerative capabilities. Now, each attack the enemy landed on the barrier inflicted irreversible damage, inevitably leading to the moment when it would shatter entirely. The protective array served only as a thin veil, barely delaying the inevitable collapse. Clearly, the demon beast army, undiminished after years of continuous battle, launched this assault with unwavering determination. The war raged on day and night for months on end. And with each passing day, the fallen fragments of the barrier grew larger and more numerous, signaling that the day of the breach was drawing near. Meanwhile, Jiang Chengxuan sat in meditation within a cave, his integration with the Tao of the five elements ongoing. The bottleneck of his cultivation realm had been thoroughly shattered, transforming Jiang Chengxuan into a vessel of the five elements' power. His body became exceedingly pure, almost one with the Tao itself. At this moment, he had become one with heaven and earth. The Tao of the five elements fully manifested around him, evolving into 5 miniature stars that orbited him. Each star represented a world of the five elements' power. Within the fiery star, divine flames surged from the earth's core towards the sky, transforming into a rain of fire that drenched the lands. Within the watery star, layers of azure waters were home to many blurry beings, swimming about. The wooden star was covered by divine trees that touched the skies, brimming with vitality. Here, all living things thrived and withered in a cycle of profound mystery. Within the metallic star, ethereal divine light shimmered endlessly, with sharp divine winds sweeping across without pause. And within the earthen star, divine mountains reached for the heavens, their ranges flowing like rivers, undulating across the landscape. As Jiang Chengxuan merged more with the Tao of the five elements, these stars evolved more rapidly. They orbited around him, constantly revolving, creating a microcosm, within which the supreme rules of the five elements prevailed, shrouded in five-colored divine light. Then, at a certain moment, all evolution halted, and the rules of the five elements surged towards Jiang Chengxuan. Rumble! The world transformed dramatically, with thunder roaring. Jiang Chengxuan's body seemed to harbor a black hole, attracting the five stars towards each other, gradually drawing closer, until they collided, intertwining and merging the five elements together. A complete world officially formed, where all things grew wildly, revived. Jiang Chengxuan suddenly opened his eyes, the myriad elements of the world now wholly within his grasp. After years of dedication, at this moment, he had truly stepped from the threshold of Tao inception to that of Tao fusion, advancing from the early stage of Tao integration to the mid-stage. And at this moment, a voice belonging to the system echoed in his mind. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have reached Tao fusion. Under Jiang Chengxuan's eager anticipation, the system's voice continued to sound. You've received a system reward, 1 deduction bead. You've received a system reward, a heaven-connecting spiritual treasure, azure sky seal. This treasure is a defensive spiritual treasure, possessing the characteristic of being impervious to all methods. This final reward undoubtedly sent a jolt through Jiang Chengxuan, his heart skipping a beat. Apart from the highly scarce deduction bead, critical for advancing his heavenly calculation technique, he was also awarded a heaven-connecting spiritual treasure. Truly, this was a grand gesture. With a thought, he summoned the azure sky seal into his hand, examining it closely. It shimmered with ethereal treasure light, roughly palm-sized, pentagonal in shape, adorned with the figures of auspicious beasts soaring in various postures, and the ancient and dominant characters for azure sky, etched in its center. Jiang Chengxuan lightly activated the azure sky seal with his spiritual qi. Instantly, the seal burst into radiance, and the phantom images of the auspicious beasts emerged, circling around him, forming a protective shield. This shield gave Jiang Chengxuan a sensation akin to that of a realm wall, deeply mysterious. He praised it in his heart. This was indeed a top-notch spiritual treasure. One had to know that heaven-connecting spiritual treasures were very rare in the floodgate realm. And even rarer are those that resonate and harmonize with their user. Heaven-connecting spiritual treasures held by Tao integration cultivators are often evolved from regular spiritual treasures through continuous refinement and upgrading. Only in this way can they truly become one with their owner. The Azure Sky Seal, gifted by the system, operated without any hindrance for Jiang Chengxuan. as if it had been his destined spiritual treasure for ages. Such was the marvel of the system. After familiarizing himself with the Azure Sky Seal, Jiang Chengxuan stored it away. And the deduction bead was not overlooked. Whenever he had time, he would advance his heavenly calculation technique to a higher level. The fifth level of heavenly calculation technique could already predict most of the things in the spiritual realm. If he could upgrade it to the sixth level, who knows what formidable effects it might possess. Yang Chengxuan was filled with anticipation. However, now was not the best time to upgrade his heavenly calculation technique. For him, who had just made a breakthrough into Tao fusion, consolidating his realm was the utmost priority. Thus, without much hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan once again sat in meditation to consolidate his realm. The Tao of the five elements began to manifest around him, spreading like a new world in the void. At this moment, the Tao of the five elements was no longer merely behind him, but had become one with him. With each inhalation and exhalation, the world of the five elements transformed, cycling through day and night, grand and majestic. The scene shifts to the eastern sky domain. On the battlefield, the brutal slaughter had been ongoing for months. On one side, the three great demon beast saints, their eyes blood-red and their bodies surging with demonic energy, were filled with a sky-high killing intent. Before them, the eastern sky domain barrier had become extremely dim, like a layer of tissue paper. Break! The three demon beast saints simultaneously unleashed their barrier-breaking treasures, and blasts of green, yellow, and red light exploded upon the barrier. Boom! At that moment, it felt as though the heavens themselves were about to collapse, a deep, bell-like rumble instantaneously spreading throughout the eastern sky domain. In an instant, all eyes were drawn to the spectacle, and the combatants momentarily ceased their fighting. Above in the vast sky, a massive fragment trailing radiant light crashed to the ground. A colossal breach appeared in the eastern sky domain's barrier, glaringly evident. Dark demonic chi rushed into the eastern sky domain with the air, like a black storm sweeping through. Under the relentless assault of the demon beasts, the eastern sky domain's barrier wall was finally breached. In that moment, the hordes of demon beasts boiled over, each of them howling towards the sky. The five demon beast saints revealed cruel, excited sneers. Good, good, finally a big hole has been made. I shall be the first to enter. Saint Titan Peak from the Mountain Movers clan instantly transformed, shrinking to the size of 10 feet, intending to enter through the breach in the barrier. HMPH, naturally I should be the first, out of my way. Saint Inferno transformed into a blaze, covering 100 meters in an instant, charging towards the breach. Led by these two, numerous demon beasts flew towards the breach in the barrier, their blood boiling. Eager to drink the fresh blood of their enemies on the land of the eastern sky domain. Watching this scene unfold, the cultivators defending the eastern sky domain were filled with rage, and a sense of determination rose within them. What began now was the most crucial and brutal battle for the eastern sky domain. The demon beasts had a natural advantage in close combat, and many arrays would no longer be effective once the enemy entered. What remained was a bloody, end-to-end fight against the demon beast army. Attack the breach on the barrier, don't let them come in. Shen Ruyan moved forward, forming a spell with her hands, sending 5 elements divine thunder crashing towards the breach with a will of destruction. The cultivators quickly realized they couldn't let the enemy enter so easily. They too unleashed their divine powers, firing towards the breach. Rumble! The leading Saint Inferno and Saint Titan Peak instantly sensed something amiss and turned to flee. However, the demon generals following them couldn't dodge in time and were blasted into pieces by the myriad of spells. Such actions by the 2 demon beast saints undeniably trapped many demons. Saint Rosy Cloud's eyebrows furrowed, and a flash of colorful light appeared in her enormous serpent eyes. Opening her mouth, a dense cloud of colorful poison spewed forth, which then concentrated into a beam shooting towards the other side of the barrier. Disperse! Someone within the crowd shouted, and the cultivators immediately scattered adeptly to avoid the attack. Against Saint Rosy Cloud, they still had no effective counter. After all, she was a Tao mastery being. Taking advantage of this moment, the other demon beast saints swiftly slipped into the eastern sky domain. The cultivators wanted to regroup and push them back, but this time, Saint Pingnan led the charge. This demon beast clan was known for its defensive prowess. With a thrust of his fists into the void an invisible barrier unfolded, blocking the cultivators' hasty second wave of attacks. Then, the demon beast army completely flooded into the eastern sky domain. One by one, the Tao Fusion and Tao Integration demon beast saints entered the eastern sky domain, revealing their true forms. Giant shadows instantly appeared on the horizon, blotting out the sun. Each demon was immense, looming over the cultivators of the floodgate realm like a range of mountains. However, the next moment, instead of charging at the cultivators as expected, they turned around and began bombarding the barrier. Lang Yuehua, who was controlling the barrier protective array, suddenly suffered a backlash and spat out a mouthful of blood. Not good, they want to completely shatter the barrier from the inside. Some elders instantly realized the enemy's intentions. The barrier, primarily designed to defend against external threats, was somewhat more fragile from within. Shen Ruyan's hands flashed with lightning. Unleashing the 5 lightning immortal slayer, she moved swiftly to intercept. Saint Flying Heaven of the Haoran sect and other Tao integration cultivators immediately followed suit without hesitation, their spiritual treasures at the ready. The first to confront Shen Ruyan was Saint Skybearer. His eagle eyes narrowed, unleashing his innate divine power. A beam of divine light arrived in an instant. Should the enemy be struck by this divine light from his eyes, they would feel as though cast into a tempestuous hell, their bodies torn asunder. But Shen Ruyan was not one to be easily subdued. With a flicker of her body, several clones burst forth, darting left and right, disrupting Saint Skybearer's aim. The divine light missed its mark, and Shen Ruyan's thunderous strikes, thunderbolt after thunderbolt, aimed for Saint Skybearer. He twisted his form, dodging the attack. But Shen Ruyan was not intent on a prolonged battle. Instead, she seized the opportunity to push deeper. As Saint Skybearer attempted to follow, Wen Yuxia with sword in hand blocked him, buying Shen Ruyan time. She continued to penetrate deeper into the demon beast army, aiming to halt the 3 demon beast saints' breach of the barrier. However, as she approached the 3 demon beast saints and unleashed the 5 lightning immortal slayer, tearing through the void, the 3 demon beast saints, as if prepared, dodged effortlessly, instead encircling Shen Ruyan in the air. Human cultivator, we've been waiting for you to walk right into our trap, hahaha. Saint Inferno laughed arrogantly. It turned out their attempt to breach the barrier from within was a feint, meant to lure the cultivators in, then encircle and slaughter them. After all, with the barrier protective array and their entry into the eastern sky domain, it proved more beneficial to slay the defending cultivators than to break the barrier. A flash of cold light passed through Shen Ruyan's eyes as she realized she had been ensnared by the enemy's scheme. Looking back the way she came, she saw that Saint Flying Heaven and Wen Yuxia, among others, were already surrounded by the enemy. Enough talk, a bunch of schemers. Do you really think you can defeat the human race this way? Shen Ruyan stood sword in hand, floating in the air, rebuking the 3 demon beast saints. Even faced with 3 Tao Fusion demon beast saints, she showed no fear. Somewhere deep within, she felt a premonition. Her husband, Jiang Chengxuan, was about to emerge from seclusion. And he would surely turn the tide. Stubborn cultivators of the floodgate realm, wait to be torn apart by our demon beast army. The 3 demon beast saints, enraged, unleashed their innate divine powers towards Shen Ruyan. Elsewhere, human cultivators were also trapped in the encirclement of the demon beast army. The situation was dire. Once the demon beast army breached the barrier, the human defenses would be overwhelmed. With Saint Pingnan's heaven-reaching ability, Saint Titan Peak's mountain-moving strength, and Saint Inferno's sky-burning power, all of them Tao Fusion-level demon beasts, now turned their deadly intentions towards Shen Ruyan. Even if it was Shen Ruyan's first time fighting a Tao Fusion enemy, and she even had the strength to kill one. At this moment, she still felt cornered. Standing upon the 5 lightning immortal slayer, Shen Ruyan dodged the demon beast saints' attacks with fluid grace, as if she and her sword were one. Horn cage. Witnessing this, Saint Pingnan's horns vibrated, instantly activating his innate divine power. In the formless void, Shen Ruyan suddenly felt an oppressive force, as if every path led to a dead end. This was one of Saint Pingnan's divine powers, entrapping the enemy as if caught within a cage. The more one struggles, the tighter the cage becomes. This power was akin to that of a heaven-connecting spiritual treasure, except that this treasure was a natural part of Saint Pingnan. See how you dodge this, the power of moving mountains, mountain core suppression. Seeing Shen Ruyan trapped by the horn, Saint Titan Peak seized the opportunity. Opening his mouth, he spat out a speck of golden light, the mountain core, weighing billions of tons, pressing down on Shen Ruyan. Thunder Spirit True Body manifest. As the mountain core pressed down with terrifying force, Shen Ruyan, in a critical moment, transformed into her Thunder God True Body. Breaking through all obstacles in an unexpected move, she turned into a bolt of lightning, piercing through the descending mountain core, and aimed her sword at Saint Titan Peak. 9 sun-scorching flames burn. But just then, 9 divine flames appeared in the sky, like 9 stars in a row blocking Shen Ruyan's path. It was Saint Inferno who made his move at this crucial moment. Facing the spell attack, even Shen Ruyan's Thunder Spirit True Body had to evade. In this first exchange, neither Shen Ruyan nor the 3 demon beast saints could claim an advantage. But on other battlefields, the situation was not so optimistic. The demon beast's encirclement strategy was either based on realm suppression or numerical superiority. And those like Shen Ruyan capable of fighting above their realm were exceedingly rare. After just one exchange, many were already at a disadvantage. And even among the human Tao integration cultivators, some were wounded under the joint assault of 2 or 3 demon beast saints. Seeing this, Shen Ruyan was anxious but felt helpless. But at that moment, a jolt of happiness rose in her heart. Looking up, she saw a terrifying beam of 5-colored divine light flying from the distant sky, its might astonishing. This attack was terrifying, arriving in an instant. At the battlefield where Saint Flying Heaven of the Haoran sect was in dire straits, just as the enemy was about to slay him, the 5-colored divine light passed, and the Tao integration demon saint exploded on the spot. Just one strike had slain a Tao integration demon saint. Such a feat was perhaps beyond even the average Tao mastery saint. Husband. From the distant sky, a figure approached swiftly, and Shen Ruyan called out in joy and surprise. At the critical moment, Jiang Chengxuan came out of seclusion and rushed over to save the situation. His first move upon arrival was to slay one of the enemy's Tao integration demon saints. Undoubtedly, after this period of seclusion and breakthrough into Tao fusion, Jiang Chengxuan had become a true Tao fusion powerhouse. Chengxuan, Ling Yuehua, Wen Yuxiao, Saint Flying Heaven, and others all exclaimed in joy. The cultivators of the Haoran sect and Thunderclap Valley were thrilled, feeling as if they had been granted a new lease on life from a desperate situation. My friends, I'm back. I hope I'm not too late. Jiang Chengxuan quickly joined his comrades, his expression firm and brimming with a fighting spirit. He had actually felt the enemy breaching the barrier earlier. But to gather more strength, he timed his return perfectly for this moment. Fortunately, it was just in time. Moreover, he had perfectly consolidated his Tao fusion realm, bringing himself to the peak of his abilities. Thus, he was able to execute that strike of 5-colored divine light, instantly annihilating a Tao integration enemy with a single blow. It was a perfect strike from the peak, a culmination of all his powers and state. This time, the Eastern Sky Domain finally had its true leader return at the most critical moment. Within the ranks of the Demon Beast army, the 5 Demon Beast saints looked at Jiang Chengxuan, whose aura had changed dramatically from before, and all showed grave expressions. Since the Demon Beasts first launched an assault on the Eastern Sky Domain, they had remembered this human cultivator. They had thought the barrier could be easily breached, yet it was this man who thwarted them. The colorful poison of Saint Rosy Cloud was countered by him, and the protective array, under his activation, became as impregnable as a deep moat. The Demon Beast army's first failure could be squarely attributed to Jiang Chengxuan. Moreover, the aura emanating from Jiang Chengxuan now was unmistakably different from before, far surpassing the Jiang Chengxuan they knew, who had only entered Tao Inception. At this moment, they finally understood something. It turned out that Jiang Chengxuan, their #1 enemy, had disappeared for so long to break through. And just as they were about to breach the barrier and encircle the defenders of the Eastern Sky Domain, claiming a significant victory, Jiang Chengxuan returned. He was like the nemesis of the Demon Beasts. Let's go. As the Demon Beast saints were stunned by Jiang Chengxuan, the encircled human cultivators suddenly burst forth, activating their dharmic powers and techniques to skillfully escape the encirclement. Seeing Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan also unleashed her lightning power, transforming into a swift thunderbolt charging forward. HMPH, thinking of escaping, It's not that easy, stay behind. But Saint Inferno quickly reacted, roaring vehemently, unwilling to let Shen Ruyan escape easily. His body transformed, with divine flames within him surging and blazing forth, turning into 9 fire lions chasing after Shen Ruyan. This attack, embodying the innate divine fire of the Flame Lions clan, was immensely terrifying and could melt rules. But at that moment, Jiang Chengxuan also made his move. His right hand twisted, summoning the 5 elements diagram with lightning speed, and then everyone only saw a flash of golden divine light, a beam shooting towards the 9 fire lions. Where the golden light passed, the void itself was cleaved open, slicing through the 9 fire lions as if cutting through tofu, melting everything in its path. And yet the strike did not end there. After annihilating the 9 fire lions, it continued towards Saint Inferno. The next moment, blood splattered. Saint Inferno, unable to react in time, had one of his lion paws severed by this sword. This was the golden void sword formed by Jiang Chengxuan's intrinsic spiritual treasure, the 5 elements diagram. With the support of the Tao fusion realm, the golden void sword seemed to truly merge with the void. Its terrifying speed and lethality took Saint Inferno by surprise, leaving him unable to react. Husband. At that moment, Shen Ruyan reached Jiang Chengxuan's side, with the Zhengjin void sword following closely, returning to Jiang Chengxuan's hand. Ruyan. Seeing his Tao companion after such a long absence, Jiang Chengxuan was visibly moved. He had witnessed the dire situation of the Eastern Sky domain upon his arrival. Seeing Shen Ruyan battling 3 opponents of higher realms alone deeply concerned him. This time, you've really outdone yourself. Jiang Chengxuan gently stroked Shen Ruyan's hair, speaking softly. At this moment, Shen Ruyan finally let down her guard, her face softening as she said, "I knew you would come, I just knew." Her words were filled with an incredible sense of trust, warming Jiang Chengxuan's heart. Within the demon beast army, all the demon beasts were shocked by Jiang Chengxuan's move. And for a moment, they were all frozen in place. The renowned Saint Inferno, a Tao fusion powerhouse of the Flame Lions clan, couldn't withstand a single strike from that man. Could this human cultivator be at the level of Tao mastery? Saint Skybearer said, his voice filled with disbelief. Even though Saint Inferno's attention was on Shen Ruyan, as a fellow Tao fusion opponent, it should not have been so easy to sever his paw. No, he's only at the Tao fusion level. Saint Rosy Cloud spoke gravely. With her Tao mastery strength, she could discern Jiang Chengxuan's current realm was merely that of Tao fusion. Yet this made it all the more terrifying. Merely at the Tao fusion realm, yet capable of delivering such a strike, was utterly inconceivable. This human cultivator's potential was too unfathomable, and he would surely become a major threat to all 3 realms in the future. We must slay him here at all costs. Saint Rosy Cloud instantly made this determination. A genius might not be frightening because they can fall. But a talent like Jiang Chengxuan, who had grown to such a realm, was truly terrifying. Perhaps it would only take a few hundred years for the Floodgate realm to witness the rise of another Daelord. Damn it, Arg. At this moment, on the side of the 3 demon beast saints, Saint Inferno was roaring in fury. Having an arm severed by an enemy was not only a physical torment, but also a mental anguish for him. For a long time, he hadn't suffered such damage, let alone failing to block an enemy's strike. His body, formed from divine flames, could usually avoid some physical damages. But under Jiang Chengxuan's sword, it had no effect whatsoever. Even more, the recovery of his body had become extremely slow after being struck by that sword. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan stepped forward from the crowd, once again summoning the golden void sword. This action startled the demon beast army, causing them to uniformly take several steps back. Demon beasts, for invading the Floodgate realm and allying with the abyssal demons, your sins are unpardonable. He spoke slowly, his voice resonant and echoing throughout the eastern heavenly domain. At this point, what more is there to say? The Floodgate realm is doomed to destruction, and soon everything will belong to us. Saint Rosy Cloud, with her massive serpent body, swam through the void, standing off in the distance, and shouted fiercely. At this juncture, there was no longer any need to hide their alliance with the abyssal demons. As long as the abyssal demons did not appear within the armies of the 3 realms, there would be no evidence. And history is written by the victors. As long as the final victors are the demon beasts, deep-sea nomads, and eldars. Then nothing else matters. Eventually, the narrative will be that the abyssal demons invaded the floodgate realm. The humans were killed by the abyssal demons. And the demon beasts, deep-sea nomads, and eldars were the great saviors who rescued the floodgate realm from fire and water, repelling the abyssal demons. Demon beasts, indeed, consist of barbaric and shameless fiends, allying with abyssal demons. Little do you know you're seeking your own doom. Jiang Chengxuan declared, locking eyes with Saint Rosy Cloud, the air thick with the intent to kill. At this time, only Saint Rosy Cloud could be considered Jiang Chengxuan's match. Behind them, a group of Dao integration cultivators also brimmed with fighting spirit, their eyes filled with chill. Jiang Chengxuan's arrival disrupted Saint Rosy Cloud's plans and completely upset the balance of power between the two sides. Now there was no opportunity to exploit, only a face-to-face battle to be had. But looking purely at the numbers, the demon beast army still appeared to be stronger, making the outcome still uncertain. At this critical juncture, it was Jiang Chengxuan who made a stand, positioned high above the ground, with Shen Ruyan, Leng Yuehua, and others ready in formation behind him. Tens of miles away, St. Rosy Cloud's immense serpent eyes, colorful as the abyss, were fixed on Jiang Chengxuan's figure. Behind her, a host of Dao fusion demon beast saints stood, their massive forms as large as stars, their presence overshadowing the sun, their demonic aura piercing the skies. The wind whistled through the massive breach in the barrier, sounding mournful, like the world was lamenting, or as if war drums were beating. The decade-long bloodshed of the eastern sky domain was finally coming to a decisive battle today. No more words were needed before the battle. The arrow was on the string and had to be released. Jiang Chengxuan's body radiated with the divine light of the five elements: red, yellow, blue, brown, and gold. With a sweep of his right hand, the five-colored divine light formed a spear, which he hurled towards the demon beast army. This signal unleashed the human cultivators behind him, who began frantically forming hand seals and chanting spells. One after another, their spells flew out, instantly filling the sky, as if deities had spilled a bucket of colorful ink. Yet within it was a terrifying destructive force, making the void itself roar. Roar! The demon beast army could no longer stand still. They began to move, their massive forms like avalanches. The ground thundered under their trampling. As if a magnitude 10 earthquake was happening, everything turned to dust by their formidable power. Boom! Spells exploded amidst the demon beast army, lighting up the sky with fire and thunder, as if heralding the apocalypse. But the demons didn't fall so easily. They activated their innate divine powers and bloodline powers. In the massive fiery explosions caused by thousands of spells, only a handful of demon beasts fell. The demon beasts opened their maws wide, roaring ferociously, their demonic aura breaking through the explosions. Their enormous forms even leaped high into the air, charging towards the humans. Jiang Chengxuan summoned his innate spiritual treasure, the five elements diagram, transforming it into the deep earth halberd in his hand, while his other hand held the azure sky seal, ready to unleash divine light. Then behind him, the phantom of a dragon and an elephant burst forth. The deep earth halberd suddenly expanded, stretching for miles. With a powerful swing, the massive halberd swept towards the charging demon beasts. This strike, with the force of 100 million tons, caused the air to boom, stirring up fierce winds. The leading demon beast saints felt as if stars were crashing down on them, the immense pressure bearing down. An insect-like demon beast saint howled, raising its four limbs, wielding a massive hammer, striking towards the deep earth halberd. He was a strong man from the insect clan, capable of lifting mountains, his hammer as heavy as a star. The collision in midair pressed out a vacuum, followed by a massive sonic boom. The shockwave from this impact spread for miles. Mountains thousands of miles away collapsed from the aftermath, a dreadful scene to behold. At the epicenter of the collision, some demon beasts close by were instantly blown into the sky. But even though he withstood Jiang Chengxuan's strike, the demon beast saint was in a bad state. Under that spear attack, his iron hammer was dented, and all four limbs were broken, a gruesome sight indeed. Die! At that moment, the human army's morale surged, as divine lights flashed, and all kinds of spiritual treasures like swords and sabers were summoned. Everyone unleashed their power in a unified assault. The demon beast formation was shattered by Jiang Chengxuan's strike, allowing the human cultivators to advance. They achieved numerous victories, injuring countless enemies. But then, the bloodthirsty demon beasts counterattacked en masse, and a bloody slaughter filled the eastern sky domain in moments. It was a fight to the death, with both humans and demon beasts displaying their divine powers. From the ground up to 1,000 feet in the air, and from the sky back down to the earth, they spared no effort. Spell explosions, bloodshed, and limbs flew everywhere. In front of Xianxia, the three great demon beast saints suddenly charged, unleashing Tao fusion-level power, intent on slaying him right there. Saint Pingnan charged like a wild ox, his ox horn locking the void, making escape impossible. Saint Titan Peak summoned the mountain core, utilizing the power to move mountains, his terrifying force shattering the void, pressing down. Saint Inferno blazed with fury, his body turning into divine flames, attempting to engulf him in a sea of fire to burn him completely. The attacks of the three Tao fusion demon beast saints were imbued with solid rules, making the heavens and the earth tremble and fall into chaos. Previously, Jiang Chengxuan might have had to retreat from such a challenging situation. Due to the suppression at the Tao fusion realm, it would be difficult for him to resist. But now he was a changed man, a true Tao fusion existence. And what he cultivated was the Tao of the five elements. Such a grand Tao is difficult to cultivate, but once a breakthrough is achieved, it often supersedes other rules. Thus, Jiang Chengxuan directly manifested the rule of the Tao, extending the five elements Tao from his body. Complete world's phantom emerged around him, instantly nullifying all rule suppressions. With a flick of his left hand, he summoned Azure Sky Seal, surrounded by auspicious beasts, instantly countering Saint Titan Peak's mountain core force. Then, with the dragon elephant phantom appearing behind him again and activating his demon-slaying talent, the two powers combined, he threw his fists, clashing head-on with the strength-renowned Flatland Demon Beast clan. As their fists collided, a terrifying force instantly burst forth, shattering the void. At this moment, the three great demon beast saints were all visibly shocked. A mere human's physical strength was actually so terrifying. But in the next moment, Jiang Chengxuan shocked them once again. He threw another punch, with undiminished momentum, faster and stronger than before, each strike vibrating the void, and forced Saint Pingnan into a clumsy defense until he was finally knocked to the ground, shaking the earth and mountains. At this time, both Saint Titan Peak and Saint Inferno hadn't even broken through the defense of the Azure Sky Seal. Terrifying physical strength, supreme rule power, and the force of powerful spiritual treasures. With these three combined, Jiang Chengxuan alone was enough to overwhelm three opponents of the same realm. How is this possible? Isn't he just a human? In their anger, both Saint Titan Peak and Saint Inferno couldn't help but doubt whether Jiang Chengxuan was really human. These questions, you can bring them with you to hell. Immediately following, Jiang Chengxuan charged at them. The two demon beast saints dared not hold back any longer, fully unleashing all their power. One's mountain core suddenly expanded, turning into a true star, smashing towards Jiang Chengxuan, while another's innate divine flame exploded several times, eventually turning into a sinister black flame, slipping into the void. But Jiang Chengxuan fully activated the five elements Tao, instantly enveloping the two in a world of the five elements. They immediately felt the shackles of rules press down on them, their power sharply declining. Then the golden void sword was swiftly summoned, a golden skyline suddenly illuminating the entire world. With this sword all things were cleaved. With this slash, made by the golden void sword, the most lethal form among his five elements diagram, imbued with the sharpest of the five elements Tao's metal rules. Within Jiang Chengxuan's domain of the five elements Tao, the powers of the two great demon saints were simultaneously suppressed, leaving them as lambs awaiting slaughter under such force. Clang! The golden void sword sliced through the star-transformed mountain core, splitting it in two instantly, and continued its terrifying trajectory, piercing through the body of Saint Titan Peak. In an instant, a large hole was opened in Saint Titan Peak's body, blood gushing out like a crimson waterfall. Under this slash, he felt his life force severed, his eyes filled with unwillingness and terror. Subsequently, his massive body collapsed, turning into a towering mountain range. This is the state of the mountain movers upon death. Thus, one of the five great demon beast saints was slain by Jiang Chengxuan. Roar! Without a moment to be astonished, driven by desperation, Saint Inferno finally broke free from his bonds. Transforming into divine flames, he merged into the void, instantly engulfing Jiang Chengxuan. Terrifying flames of rule burned fiercely, melting the void itself. But in the next moment, Saint Inferno's attack abruptly ceased. A golden sword also pierced out from the void, directly shattering his primordial spirit. The golden void sword was capable of slaying enemies within the void as well. The second Dao Fusion Demon Beast Saint, slain by Jiang Chengxuan. Thinking of escaping, since you've come, stay. At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly locked onto the figure of Saint Pingnan. His massive bovine demon body was already half into the void. But being spotted by Jiang Chengxuan meant he no longer had a chance. Next, Jiang Chengxuan charged at him, and the two clashed in the air again. Fist to flesh, their divine power of billions of tons vibrating heaven and earth, with thunder appearing at the collision site. In just a short moment, the two exchanged tens of millions of blows, but Saint Pingnan was ultimately no match for Jiang Chengxuan. With the demon-slaying talent and the support of the five elements Dao, he was invincible in physical power among his peers. Moo! Finally, with a miserable cry from Saint Pingnan, Jiang Chengxuan delivered a punch. The ancient dragon-elephant phantom passing through Saint Pingnan's body, utterly killing him. The three great Dao Fusion Demon Beast Saints were all slain by Jiang Chengxuan. Chengxuan. Witnessing this scene, everyone from the Heoran sect was thrilled, filled with excitement. This was their vice-sect master, Jiang Chengxuan, guarding the eastern Sku domain, annihilating the horde of demon beasts. The people of Thunderclap Valley were even more astounded, sure that Jiang Chengxuan's fame would soon spread throughout the Floodgate realm. Meanwhile, the demon beast army, under such terrifying deterrence, had lost all will to fight. As if Jiang Chengxuan, should he decide to strike, could slaughter them as easily as slaughtering ants. In an instant, the morale of the demon beast army disintegrated. St. Rosy Cloud, who had been held off by Shen Ruyan and others, was especially unsettled. Having intended to test Jiang Chengxuan's strength with the three great demon beast saints, she hadn't expected them to be killed off so quickly. Jiang Chengxuan's strength, it seemed, might even surpass hers. Even she could not have slain the three great demon beast saints so effortlessly. But now, the situation had become irredeemable. With the three great demon beast saints dead, the human forces instantly surpassed the demons, their defeat now evident. St. Rosy Cloud's divine eyes narrowed, and she spat out a massive cloud of colorful poison. At the same time, her Tao manifested, turning the entire eastern sky domain into a realm of colors. The power of a Tao mastery saint was unmistakable, causing all who had surrounded her to be shocked and to retreat towards Jiang Chengxuan. But in the next moment, to everyone's surprise, St. Rosy Cloud's full-force explosion was not to kill but to escape. Under the power of her colorful rules, the world was turned upside down, and rules were in chaos. Her massive serpentine body suddenly slipped into the void, disappearing without a trace like a snake diving into water. Unexpectedly, the Grand Demon Beast Tao Mastery Saint had abandoned the Demon Beast army entirely. Even the Demon Beast army was stunned, and Saint Sky Bearer cursed loudly. The next moment, he stirred his 6 wings, also instantly traversing the void, fleeing hundreds of miles away. It must be said that the Demon Beast race had indeed mastered the art of escaping. Under the actions of the 2 great Demon Beast Saints, the Demon Beast army instantly collapsed, fleeing in all directions without a clear path. However, the breach on the barrier was only so wide, how many of them could escape? The human cultivators quickly regained their senses, charging at the disheartened Demon Beast generals. This time, the battle was completely one-sided. And the moment the 2 great Demon Beast Saints fled, Jiang Chengxuan had already made his move. He summoned the Golden Void Sword and the 5 elements Divine Light, targeting both Saint Rosy Cloud and Saint Skybearer. Rumble! The confrontation unfolded in the void, with lethal moves from the onset. But at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan unleashed his full power, already demonstrating the strength of a Tao Mastery Saint. He single-handedly fought the last 2 great Demon Beast Saints with deadly intent, but in the end, only 1.5 remained. Saint Skybearer was eradicated by his 5-colored Divine Light, while Saint Rosy Cloud resorted to cunning means, discarding her physical body to let her primordial spirit escape. It could also be said that she abandoned her physical body in Saint Skybearer, allowing her own primordial spirit to flee. What a pity! Jiang Chengxuan shook his head, saying. He felt the results of this battle were still not perfect. But upon hearing his light sigh, everyone else was stunned. Emerging from seclusion with Dao fusion strength, and ultimately slaying 4 out of the 5 great demon beast saints and crippling one, this was indeed a feat akin to a miracle. After this battle, Jiang Chengxuan would undoubtedly become famous throughout the Floodgate realm, and the Heoran sect might become an overlord sect. He did not participate in the final pursuit and annihilation, letting the human cultivators seek their own revenge. The spoils of war were also distributed among them. The final battle between the humans and demon beasts of the Eastern Sky Domain, which lasted several months, ended in just one day. 99% of the demon beast army died, and fewer than 10 demon beasts escaped. All this was reversed by Jiang Chengxuan's emergence, completely turning the tide. Once all the invading demon beasts of the Eastern Sky Domain were eradicated, Jiang Chengxuan also took out the protective talisman he had acquired earlier to fully repair the heavily damaged barrier. From this moment on, one of the 9 domains was never to be invaded again. This undoubtedly alleviated much of the Floodgate realm's pressure. Successfully defending the Eastern Sky Domain freed up nearly 1/10 of their strength. And then, Jiang Chengxuan received a call for help from another domain. Without any hesitation, he immediately took Shen Ruyan and some Dao integration cultivators and rushed to the aid. There, in the Northern Sky Domain, was where the deep-sea nomads among the 3 realms were causing trouble. While Jiang Chengxuan and his party were still on their way, the Northern Sky Domain had already become a hell on Earth. Among the 9 major domains of the Floodgate realm, the sects in charge of guarding the Northern Sky Domain were relatively weaker. Initially, the responsibility for guarding the Northern Sky Domain was given to sects located near this area. However, there were no particularly strong forces near the Northern Sky Domain. The region of the Floodgate realm that borders the Northern Sky Domain is a very cold and barren area, with a sparse population, which naturally means fewer cultivators in the area. The only forces that could be considered superpowers in this area were the newly risen Frozen Heavens Doorway and the extreme Yin sect. These 2 sects, acting as brother sects, jointly held the power over this region. But when the demon beasts, deep-sea nomads, and eldars attacked the Floodgate realm, these 2 superpowers were the main defenders. Besides them, there were only some smaller sects, and because of the unique environment of the Northern Sky Domain, cultivators practicing ordinary techniques found it difficult to exert their full power there. The Northern Sky Domain is extremely cold, filled with icy rules of power, affecting all but those above the Dao integration realm. Unfortunately, the enemy invading the Northern Sky Domain was precisely the deep-sea nomads. Being creatures that live and die in the sea, they are completely familiar with water, ice, and cold. Thus, in the Northern Sky Domain, the army was like a fish in water, adapting to the extreme environment far better than humans. So with these factors combined, warfare in the Northern Sky Domain was extremely difficult. In the deep-sea nomads' first assault on the Northern Sky Domain, the barrier was breached, though ultimately reclaimed by the cultivators. However, after years of fierce battles, the deep-sea nomads eventually occupied a large territory of the Northern Sky Domain. At this moment, a large part of the Northern Sky Domain was completely a sea of ice. On this ice sea, there were human cultivators' skeletons everywhere, many of which had been gruesomely devoured by the deep-sea nomads. And because the ice and snow never melted, these bodies did not decompose. After successive bloody battles, they became bloody icebergs on the ice sea, filled with bones. Some human cultivators were trapped alive inside icebergs by the deep-sea nomads' spells, dying miserably. Currently, the deep-sea nomads were launching their final assault on the cultivators guarding the Northern Sky Domain. Countless deep-sea nomads were driving huge waves and icebergs, clashing with cultivators from the 2 defending sects. The war had lasted so long, and although reinforcements often arrived from the rear, the power disparity between the deep-sea nomads and humans in the Northern Sky Domain had become very significant after years of brutal fighting. Nearly every human cultivator was facing off against more than 2 deep-sea nomads, including the leaders of the 2 defending sects. Almost every human cultivator was dealing with more than 2 members of the deep-sea nomads, including the sect masters of the Frozen Heavens Doorway and the extreme Yin sect. One at the Dao Fusion realm, the other at the Dao Mastery realm, are facing off against 2 Dao Mastery saints and 2 Tao Fusion Saints. The Tao Mastery Saint is the sect master of the extreme Yin sect, Supreme Yin, currently manifesting the rules of Yin, surrounded by 9 ice rings. These are his heaven-connecting spiritual treasure, the 9 mystical ice rings. At the Tao Fusion Saint is the sect master of the Frozen Heavens doorway, Frozen Heavens, wielding his intrinsic heaven-connecting spiritual treasure, the Ice Dragon flag, controlling an ice dragon. At the Tao Fusion level is the sect master of the Frozen Heavens doorway, Frozen Heavens, wielding his innate sky-piercing lingbao, the Ice Dragon banner, controlling an ice dragon, exhaling the breath of extreme ice to contend with the enemies. Surrounding them are 4 beings from the deep-sea nomads. One named Saint Fury Wave and another named Saint Stormwave, both Tao Mastery Saints. Both figures are immense, towering tens of meters tall, with scales twisting and turning and powerful dharmic powers surging. Saint Fury Wave holds a bone staff adorned with sharp spears, called the soul-devouring bone staff, also a heaven-connecting spiritual treasure. Saint Stormwave wields a giant crescent shovel, its movement stirring up waves that reach the sky and rolling tornadoes, also a heaven-connecting spiritual treasure. They, along with the remaining 2 Tao Fusion deep-sea nomads, have been besieging Supreme Yin and Frozen Heavens for an entire month. The 6 have been battling across the northern sky domain, from the barrier to this place, without rest. And the armies they lead have done the same. The deep-sea nomad army and the human army have fought until bones litter the ground and the blood has dyed the icy red, spreading to the shore. Human cultivators this time, let's see where you can run. All of you will become food for our deep-sea nomads. High above 1,000 meters, Saint Fury Wave's eyes glow with bloodlust, his fanged mouth showcasing his ferocity. For them, consuming the flesh and blood of their enemies is a reward for the victors. Cackle, 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 the northern sky domain will belong to our deep-sea nomads from now on, ha ha ha, and sooner or later, the same will go for the floodgate realm. All of you humans become food for our deep-sea nomads. Saint Stormwave swings his crescent shovel towards the 2, the sharp blade cutting through the void, stirring up gusts of cold wind. The 2 deep-sea nomad Tao Lord's main target is Frozen Heavens, who is only at the Tao Fusion realm, making him a soft target on this battlefield. Filthy deep-sea nomads, our humans will surely exterminate all of you. Frozen Heavens, wielding the Ice Dragon flag, commands the Ice Dragon to barely fend off the attacks of the 2. This Ice Dragon, like a spirit within the Ice Dragon flag, has been consecrated by him from the beginning of his Tao journey to now. But now his companion is riddled with wounds, its body covered in blood. Artifact spirits don't have physical bodies, but some attacks can still harm them. 9 mystical ice rings, 9 extreme divine lights. Just as Frozen Heavens was about to be injured by Saint Fury Wave and Saint Stormwave, Supreme Yin suddenly shouted. The 9 mystical ice rings beside him burst into divine light, instantly transforming into 9 divine moons. Embodying the profound ice Tao, they intertwined in the void and attacked the enemy. This move is Supreme Yin's killer technique, in combination with the 9 ice rings, making it very troublesome. It was with this technique that the 2 of them have been able to fight their enemies up till now. However, as the deep-sea nomads, Saints became more familiar with his techniques, the effectiveness of this move gradually diminished. From initially killing several Tao integration deep-sea nomads, to now not even being able to touch the scales of the deep-sea nomad saints. They see it with their eyes, feel anxious in their hearts but are helpless. They've done all they could. The extreme Yin sect and the Frozen Heavens doorway, in their efforts to defend the barrier, are nearly exhausting their reserves. Even the 2 of them might die here today. All calls for help have been sent out, but with the other 9 domains also in dire straits. Struggling to fend for themselves, how could they come to the rescue of the northern sky domain? The battle has gradually entered its final phase, with many human cultivators being slain amidst overwhelming enemy forces. The only ones left are a few Tao integration saints still desperately resisting the enemy's encirclement, and some disciples from the 2 sects who have barely managed to band together. But now, the deep-sea nomad Tao Mastery Saints are attacking them again. And if they fall in this battlefield, the northern sky domain will be officially lost. Supreme Yin, do you really think your move will still be effective? Today, both of you will surely die. Saint Fury Wave and others neatly dodged Supreme Yin's 9 mystical ice rings, disdainfully saying, Frozen Heavens temporarily broke free from the encirclement, calling the ice dragon back to his side, gently caressing its wounds. Brother Supreme Yin, if there's a chance, you should leave. The Northern Sky domain can't be held, and I can't leave either. We've done our best. He ignored the deep-sea nomad's mockery, turning instead to speak to Supreme Yin. By now, he had accepted that his death was inevitable, hoping only that his friend might find an opportunity to escape. But Supreme Yin resolutely replied, "If the Northern Sky domain falls, where else can I go? Nowadays, where in the Floodgate realm is their peace?" From their youth within the Northern Sky domain of the Floodgate realm, they had managed to bring their previously unknown Frozen Heavens doorway and extreme Yin sect to their current stature. But after this battle, all would turn to naught. Even as cultivators with profound Tao hearts, they must submit to this fate. "Indeed," Frozen Heavens solemnly said, "then let our Tao give back to the world of the Northern Sky here." With a fierce shout, he summoned an ice blade, with Tao rules manifesting behind him, turning the sky into a blizzard. Roar! The ice dragon roared. Frozen Heavens fully activated the ice dragon flag, draining all the power contained within into the ice dragon's body. They erupted with astonishing might, launching a final strike against their enemies. Even the 2C deep-sea nomad saint were momentarily taken aback by this show of force. Ice Heaven's blade, Ice Heaven's slash. Frozen Heavens exerted his full strength, unleashing his ultimate technique, the ice blade illuminating the sky, a heavenly blade light instantly slashing out. This strike was extremely fierce, the blade light clear as a massive mirror in a snowy land. 9 mystical ice rings. At that moment, Supreme Yin also unleashed the power of a Tao Mastery Saint, the Tao of the extreme Yin instantly spreading, plunging the entire Northern Sky domain into darkness. Then 9 ice rings transformed into 9 stars, forming a giant beam across the night sky, striking towards the 2 deep-sea nomad saints. Their combined strike, executed in a desperate situation, was filled with an unyielding will to die. They had perfectly integrated with the Tao and were extremely terrifying. A Tao fusion deep-sea saint took the brunt of the attack, instantly cleaved in two, then further obliterated by the divine light. These two moves, without diminishing in strength, collided with the counterattacks of the 2 deep-sea Tao Mastery Saints, exploding instantly. Boom! The terrifying force repelled the deep-sea Tao Mastery Saints, creating a breach in the perfect encirclement. Supreme Yin and Frozen Heavens exchanged a glance, seeing a good opportunity to escape. If there was any hope of fleeing, they wouldn't simply surrender their lives and immediately transformed into streaks of light, rushing towards the outside. Just as they were about to escape. But at that moment, a massive shadow suddenly surged from beneath the water. It was a gigantic deep-sea nomad, with 4 arms and a large fin on its back, stabbing towards the two with a huge ice spear. In an instant, Frozen Heavens and Supreme Yin were unable to react and were simultaneously hit by the ice spear. The terrifying force caused both of them to burst into a mist of blood and were knocked back into the encirclement. This was also a deep-sea Tao Mastery Saint. This blow led them to complete despair. Under such circumstances, the deep-sea nomads had actually dispatched a Tao Mastery powerhouse to launch a surprise attack on the Northern Sky domain. Thinking of escaping, cunning human cultivators, you almost tricked us. Saint Fury Wave and Saint Stormwave then surrounded them, their eyes gleaming ferociously as if choosing their prey. They almost let the duck right at their mouths fly away. You deserve to die. Our deep-sea nomads will thoroughly enjoy consuming your flesh, Kekek. The newly arrived deep-sea nomad said, extending his blood-red tongue. The next moment, he suddenly unleashed terrifying claws, aiming for the hearts of the severely injured Frozen Heavens and Supreme Yin. This was the deep-sea nomad's favorite human part, rich in blood and very tender and delicious. Since Frozen Heavens and Supreme Yin were injured by his surprise attack, by the rules, he had the privilege to enjoy them first. At this moment, a sentence suddenly came from the distant icy sky, shocking everyone. The reinforcements from the eastern sky domain have arrived, die deep-sea scums. At that moment, everyone was stunned. Reinforcements? How could there be reinforcements in the Floodgate realm? Moreover, were they really not here to die? But in the next moment, a ray of 5-colored torrential light suddenly illuminated the void, its contained terrifying might making everyone shiver. Saint Fury Wave and Saint Stormwave's pupils contracted as they screamed. How is it possible for reinforcements to come from the Northern Sky realm? Aren't all the other domains engaged in battle? Yet they didn't dare to underestimate this attack, hurriedly unleashing divine powers and spells to counter it. Boom! A horrific explosion once again erupted, and it took the combined effort of the two Tao Mastery Saints to barely block this five-colored divine light. Such a powerful enemy. This incident made the three Deep-Sea Saints solemn. Following that, several Tao integration-level spells bombarded from afar, completely disrupting the battlefield that was about to determine a victor. The people from Frozen Heaven's doorway and the extreme Yin sect saw a glimmer of hope, their faces lighting up with joy. Even Frozen Heavens and Supreme Yin, who initially couldn't believe it, were astonished and showed joy. Had the reinforcements truly arrived? They still found it unbelievable. All 9 domains are still engaged in arduous defenses. How could such a force of reinforcements arrive? And judging by their spells, their strength is not low, possibly even stronger than theirs. This was truly a pleasant surprise. Both were prepared to sacrifice themselves in a desperate fight, hoping to perish together with the deep-sea nomads. The arrival of the reinforcements was so timely and their strength so formidable, it was utterly astonishing. It was as if the heavens had eyes. Fellow Taoists, Jiang Chengxuan from the Eastern Sky Domain has come to assist in the battle. At that moment, the reinforcements finally appeared before everyone. The man leading them stood with his hands behind his back, exuding an extraordinary demeanor, and calmly stated. In a critical moment, it was Jiang Chengxuan and others who came to the rescue. A mere Tao fusion cultivator dares to be so arrogant. It turns out to be just a lowly cultivator after all. He gave us a fright. However, at this time, St. Fury Wave, St. Stormwave, and other deep-sea nomads suddenly spoke disdainfully. As Jiang Chengxuan and his group approached, they could see that the leading Jiang Chengxuan was only at the Tao fusion realm. Including the 4 people behind him, they were also at most at the Tao fusion cultivators. Ha, mere Tao fusion cultivator dares to spout nonsense in front of us. You are courting death. The deep-sea Tao Mastery Saint who ambushed Frozen Heavens and Supreme Yin laughed arrogantly. The 5-colored divine light had indeed surprised them, but upon seeing that those who made the move were below them in terms of cultivation, they felt relieved. They presumed Jiang Chengxuan had surprised them by leveraging external means. Hearing such brazen provocation from the enemy, Jiang Chengxuan remained composed, refusing to let anger take hold. Saint Frozen Heavens and Saint Extreme Yin couldn't help but feel uneasy at this moment. Could it be that Jiang Chengxuan had truly recklessly charged into this place? Yet they harbored a suspicion deeper than that of the deep-sea nomads. The human race had already poured all its might into the war against the 3 realms. Even if he was merely a Tao fusion saint, it was impossible for such a team to suddenly appear. They faintly sensed that something was amiss. Why, human cultivator, have you come to realize your stupidity? Are you afraid? St. Fury Wave continued to taunt, assuming Jiang Chengxuan had discerned their strength and was finally beginning to tremble with fear. Shaken by Jiang Chengxuan's earlier display of strength, he felt distinctly embarrassed, as if he had made a fool of himself. Deep-sea nomads, you truly are brainless beings. Suddenly, Jiang Chengxuan spoke with deliberation. In the next moment, the Tao of the 5 elements behind him manifested instantly, and a terrifyingly lofty aura unfurled. Though he was merely at the Tao fusion realm, the terror of the Tao of the 5 elements had already spoken volumes. This man didn't recklessly make the decision to come. The 5-colored divine light. The colors of the red, yellow, brown, green, and blue behind Jiang Chengxuan lit up at once, and the power of the 5 elements was surging in his grasp. With a sweep of his right hand, a 5-colored divine light instantly bathed the heavens and earth, hurtling towards St. Fury Wave with lightning speed. How is this possible? St. Fury Wave was taken aback, bellowing out in astonishment. He had just harnessed the might of his bloodline rules, yet Jiang Chengxuan's 5-colored divine light arrived in the blink of an eye, carrying an unparalleled ferocity, smashing through his protective dharmic power and shattering his scales. Caught off guard, Jiang Chengxuan's single blow inflicted severe wounds upon this deep-sea nomad at the Tao fusion realm. Sensing the searing pain coursing through him, St. Fury Wave let out a piercing howl in an instant. I'll end you, soul-devouring bone staff, tear him asunder. Despite the injuries not being insignificant, they still failed to render a Tao fusion saint incapacitated. With his eyes ablaze, Saint Fury Wave summoned the soul-devouring bone staff in an instant, morphing it into a colossal, bone-spiked fish that blotted out the sky, lunging towards Jiang Chengxuan. In that moment, Saint Stormwave and another saint also sprang into action, launching a ruthless assault against Jiang Chengxuan. 9 mystical ice rings, go! Saint Extreme Yin and the others dared not hesitate, immediately unleashing their Dao rules, rushing to Jiang Chengxuan's aid. In an instant, the 4 Dao Mastery Saints simultaneously made their moves, their momentum grand and utterly astonishing. Terrifying power swelled in the void, directly lifting waves hundreds of feet high, with the aftermath transforming into gusts of wind, dispersing the onlookers outside the battlefield. Let's go, we'll leave this to Chengxuan. At this moment, Shen Ruyan said to the others, leading them to rescue the disciples of Frozen Heaven's Doorway and Extreme Yin Sect. This was also Jiang Chengxuan's arrangement. They swiftly headed towards the deep-sea nomads locked in battle with human cultivators amidst the icy seas, thunder rolling as they obliterated the enemy with a single strike. Led by Shen Ruyan, this force entering the battlefield instantly reversed the tide for both sides. Many cultivators who had been pursued by the deep-sea nomads turned around and fought back with their assistance. As the shockwaves from the clash of the Dao Mastery cultivators in the sky dissipated, both sides stood apart, facing each other. Be careful, you don't need to worry about me, just focus on protecting yourselves. Jiang Chengxuan turned to Saint Extreme Yin and Saint Frozen Heavens. Both of them were injured, and in this great battle he, Saint Stormwave and the deep-sea nomad Dao Mastery Saint who had launched the sneak attack, were the main combatants. Okay. The 2 human saints nodded silently, feeling deeply grateful. During the recent exchange, they had already glimpsed Jiang Chengxuan's true strength, which was definitely not just at the Dao fusion realm. Truly, he was a monstrous talent. Golden Void Sword, go! Jiang Chengxuan summoned his innate spiritual treasure, the 5 elements diagram, which transformed into a void sword of metal and struck towards Saint Stormwave. This sword was like a beam of celestial light, its speed astonishing. Thunderous waves of annihilation. At this point, Saint Stormwave had put away his arrogance. Without hesitation, he immediately unleashed his killing move. The crescent moon scythe in his hand transformed directly into a colossal entity over 3,000 feet long, crashing violently towards the flying golden light. This strike carried the Dao of waves, with each segment landing adding layers of force, like waves crashing upon waves, growing increasingly heavy. By the time the crescent moon scythe fully descended, it had already ruptured the void, humming loudly. Boom! 2 extreme forces collided, and a massive rumble resounded instantly, causing space to ripple like water. Under this collision, both men were sent flying back several miles. Jiang Chengxuan hadn't expected that Saint Stormwave's power would actually surpass that of the demon beasts. Indeed, these beings from other races were all monsters. And Saint Stormwave was even more astonished. This was his strike using his innate divine power, yet this human cultivator actually intercepted it so effortlessly. See Dragon Spear. Suddenly, beneath the retreating Jiang Chengxuan, a deep blue spell surged out from the sea surface. This strike, let's see how you evade it. The deep-sea nomad Dao Mastery Saint, who had previously ambushed Saint Extreme Yin, and others actually intended to strike Jiang Chengxuan again. Moreover, he picked a perfect timing, as the spear was aimed directly at Jiang Chengxuan's path of retreat. The ferocious face of the deep-sea nomad Dao Mastery Saint swiftly approached, the spear in his hand carrying an unstoppable momentum as it aimed for Jiang Chengxuan's vital points. This spear contained the deep-sea nomad's divine power, coupled with the power of rules capable of piercing through myriad defenses. Even if Jiang Chengxuan wanted to deploy the Azure Sky Seal for defense, it was likely already too late. However, in this perilous moment, the 5-colored light on Jiang Chengxuan's body condensed instantly, transforming his entire body into a 5-colored crystal. Then a true 5-colored divine light shot out from within Jiang Chengxuan's body, instantly sweeping past the incoming ambush attack. This was Jiang Chengxuan's innate divine power, the 5-colored divine light. One of its effects was to instantly nullify the opponent's spiritual treasures and divine powers. Jiang Chengxuan could only use this divine power once a day. It could be seen how domineering and terrifying it was. The brilliant 5-colored divine light swept through, and an incomparably majestic force penetrated the deep-sea nomad Dao Mastery Saint's entire body in an instant. In a split second, The power of his Tao rules and his innate divine power, the long spear, simultaneously disappeared from him. How is this possible? What kind of sorcery is this? He shouted in disbelief, his words filled with incredulity and fear. As a deep-sea nomad Tao mastery saint, having the power he had cultivated over countless years suddenly vanish nearly caused his Tao heart to collapse. Moreover, under the might of the five-colored divine light, what was originally an assassination attempt turned into him falling into a trap of his own making. Before his eyes, a massive black shadow descended towards him, as if a star had fallen from the sky, with a force reaching tens of thousands of pounds, unavoidable. Deep Earth Halberd. Jiang Chengxuan invoked the power of the dragon and elephant, roaring aloud, as the terrifying force instantly shattered the void and smashed down, shaking the heavens and the earth. The Deep Earth Halberd fiercely struck the deep-sea nomad Tao mastery saint head-on, and in an instant, the void ruptured. Upon contact with the massive and sturdy scales and the heavy deep hearth halberd, the deep-sea nomad Tao mastery saint felt as if he had been hit squarely by a meteor. The Tao mastery level scales of the deep-sea nomad were shattered into fragments under this strike, just like wooden planks meeting an iron hammer. The body of this deep-sea nomad Tao mastery saint was forced into a shrimp-like shape. Blood gushed out from his mouth instantly, mixed with some fragments of his internal organs. Indescribable agony filled his mind in an instant, turning his already hideous face extremely ferocious. Far away, Saint Extreme Yin and Saint Frozen Heavens stared in astonishment, feeling incredibly satisfied at the same time. This despicable deep-sea nomad who liked to ambush others was finally being punished. Finally, the deep earth halberd viciously slammed into the seabed, causing waves hundreds of feet high to surge up, carrying the shattered body of the deep-sea nomad Tao mastery saint. What a pity! Jiang Chengxuan withdrew the deep earth halberd, saying lightly. At the last moment, he felt that the deep-sea nomad Tao mastery saint's divine power had recovered, and then he lost his perception of that person. Presumably, he had once again employed some concealed divine power and escaped at a critical moment. This was the drawback of Jiang Chengxuan's relatively lower cultivation level. Although his five elements Tao was extremely domineering and powerful, in terms of understanding and mastery of the rules of heaven and earth, he was still somewhat lacking compared to these Tao mastery saints. Therefore, if Tao mastery enemies were willing to risk their lives and pay the price to escape, it would still be difficult for him to catch them. However, the combined attack of the five-colored divine light and the deep earth halberd was enough to give that deep-sea nomad Tao mastery saint a hard time. Jiang Chengxuan was certain that, without several hundred years of recuperation, that deep-sea nomad Tao mastery saint would not be able to make a move again. And within these several hundred years, the opponent's cultivation level might even decline due to injuries and might never recover. Jiang Chengxuan breathed a sigh of relief, turned around and looked toward Saint Fury Wave and Saint Stormwave, the two deep-sea nomad saints. Just a simple glance made these two formidable deep-sea nomads feel a chill creeping into their hearts. After these few rounds, they both understood how foolish their previous arrogance was. This Tao fusion enemy was clearly a terrifying monster. Buzz! Saint Stormwave suddenly took out a horn and blew it. Then the two of them leaped into the depths of the sea. This sound was the signal for the deep-sea nomads to retreat. As soon as the horn sounded, the deep-sea nomad army instantly collapsed, scattering in all directions to flee. Even when relentlessly pursued by the human forces behind them, they dared not fight back, only risking their lives to dive deeper into the ocean floor. Jiang Chengxuan's might had already terrified them to the core. Moreover, Shen Ruyan and her group wreaking havoc on the battlefield had already inflicted heavy losses on the deep-sea nomad army. In such a situation, no deep-sea nomad dared to stay any longer. However, faced with the escape of the two deep-sea nomad Tao mastery saints, Jiang Chengxuan did not give chase. Because the deep-sea nomads underwater were too agile, and he was completely unfamiliar with the situation in the northern sky domain, it was easy to fall into a dangerous situation. But when facing the Tao fusion deep-sea nomad who wanted to escape, Jiang Chengxuan directly took action and killed him. In the end, with the support of Jiang Chengxuan and others, the northern sky domain, which had been almost annihilated by the deep-sea nomads, survived. Saint Extreme Yin and Saint Frozen Heavens expressed their gratitude to everyone with grateful expressions. The disciples of the Extreme Yin sect and the Frozen Heavens doorway were even more grateful for their life-saving grace. Brother Chengxuan, if there is any need for our assistance in the future, we will definitely repay you even at the cost of our lives. St. Frozen Heavens bowed to Jiang Chengxuan and said, I dare not, dare not. Nowadays, with the chaos in the floodgate realm, mutual assistance among cultivators is only natural. Jiang Chengxuan replied sincerely. That day, the northern sky domain buried many fallen disciples, allowing their souls to rest in peace. By the time they went to reclaim the northern sky barrier later on, the deep-sea nomad fortresses were already deserted. The crisis in the northern sky domain was resolved completely with the assistance of Jiang Chengxuan and others. Jiang Chengxuan's name resounded throughout the northern sky domain as a result. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to the New World. In the New World, the fierce battle between the human race and the abyssal demons became even more intense. Over decades of war, the territory of the abyssal clans continued to expand, while the power of the human race kept shrinking. In the New World, the figures of the abyssal demons could be seen everywhere. The joint defenses of various fortified places had already collapsed, and abyssal demons often infiltrated the human activity areas, causing numerous crises. On the surface of the New World, abyssal demon fortresses rose from the ground one after another, reaching straight into the sky, with sinister black demonic chi infecting the sky, completely corrupting the land. The abyssal demons were far more terrifying than the other races. They followed their instinct for destruction and bloodlust, launching relentless attacks on the human race day and night. Moreover, the abyssal demons possessed numerous strange abilities, capable of corrupting human cultivators, causing former loved ones to slaughter each other, resulting in unimaginable tragedies. The power of the abyssal demons had spread throughout this world, contaminating the very essence of this world. Because this world had never had a race of its own. Every corner of the New World was a battlefield between the human race and the abyssal demons, littered with corpses and nauseating piles of debris. The battle here had already entered its final stage, with the slaughter becoming even more brutal. However, the human race was not in a dominant position. They were guarding the last stronghold, perhaps only waiting for their demise. With the continuous influx of unfavorable battle, reports into the rear of the floodgate realm. One day, Qin Shenwu and other Mahayana Dailords finally made up their minds. We can't let things continue like this. In the sky of the New World, the three Mahayana Dailords of the Divine Shadow Gate, Pantheon Sect, and Haoran Sect stood side by side. From their perspective, the fortresses of the abyssal clans were like cages and syringes, sucking up the essence of the New World. If this continued, not only would the New World be completely swallowed by the abyssal demons, but the floodgate realm might also be contaminated along with it. Yes, we can't let the abyssal demons rampage any longer. The Mahayana Dailord of the Pantheon Sect spoke. Before coming here, they had already rested for several years, adjusting all their strength to its peak, only to launch the final battle. When Mahayana Dailords made a move, the impact was immeasurable. But the situation had reached a point where they had no choice but to take action. Let's go. The Mahayana Dailord of the Divine Shadow Gate looked at the two and said. They nodded. Then he reached out with a quaint palm and gently pressed it on the void. Immediately, a strange force spread out, and the rules of the world obediently avoided his hand. A pitch-black portal appeared before the three of them. As Mahayana Dailords, having reached the Tao, they were terrifying existences. They could freely open the gates between worlds. The pitch-black gateway emitted an aura from beyond the domain, extremely profound, serene, and ancient. This gate neither led to the world of abyssal demons nor to the three realms. It led to the outer regions of the spiritual realm. Inside, chaos ruled, filled with the chaotic energy and various peculiar powers born from the creation of the world. If one below Mahayana entered by mistake, they would fall into the cycle of reincarnation forever, lost forever in the boundless space and time of the outer domain. But only in the outer domain could the Mahayana Dailords engage in battle. Let's go. The Mahayana Dailord of the Pantheon Sect took the lead, stepping into the world gate and arriving in the outer world. In an instant, he felt the laws of the world turning into chaos, and disordered energy filled his senses. In the outer domain, deep and endless countless stars illuminated the pitch-black world, incredibly dazzling. Here they saw the existence of many small worlds, like bubbles floating in outer space. But in fact, these small worlds were infinitely distant and inaccessible, which was the strangeness of the outer domain. Here, all rules were in a chaotic state. However, the Mahayana Daolords could still control the power of the Tao in the outer domain. They were Tao itself. As Qin Shenwu and the Daolord of the Divine Shadow Gate also entered the outer domain, under the influence of the three of them, the chaotic Tao became much more stable. "Let's begin. Let that demon from the abyss come out first," Qin Shenwu said. The Daolords of the Divine Shadow Gate and the Pantheon sect nodded. Then the three of them simultaneously took out fragments filled with demonic chi and evil aura, which were remnants of the demonic fortresses. 5 elements Tao, suppressing demons and opening heaven. The three Mahayana Daolords simultaneously refined the Tao on the demonic artifacts, turning them into the keys to connect to the abyssal demon realm. In an instant, dark red lightning burst in front of them, and the void trembled violently in their hands. Then they tore open a rift in the outer domain, and inside was filled with the aura of demons. This was a passage leading to the abyssal demon realm. Seeing this, the Daolord of the Pantheon sect did not hesitate and directly sent a divine light into it. Then this abyssal gate suddenly expanded, and a huge black hand reached out from inside. Daolords of the floodgate realm, have you finally been unable to resist? With a bell-like voice, the aura belonging to the abyssal demons invaded from within. A terrifying red-black figure shot out from the abyssal gate, hundreds of feet, thousands of feet, tens of thousands of feet. The true body of the abyssal demon Mahayana Daolord was incomparably colossal, covered with eerie evil eyes, each of which was like a black hole. Then another abyssal demon Mahayana Daolord emerged from the abyssal gate, its body resembling wriggling black worms, eyeless and mouthless. They were the most evil and terrifying existences among the demons, and the worlds devoured by them were countless. The blow of the Mahayana Daolord of the Pantheon sect was a challenge to them, and they had indeed come as they wished. Don't you find it boring just watching your subordinates fight? Why not have a battle between Daolords and end the war in the New World directly? The Daolord of the Pantheon sect said. Then Qin Shenwu suddenly made a move, waving his arm, and a 5-colored giant hand with a covering the sky momentum pressed down towards the demons. This 5 elements hand was just an ordinary move, but it was as terrifying as reincarnation. Under this move, countless stars and meteorites shattered and the void cracked. Tuzg, tuzg, tuzg. The Mahayana Daolord of the abyssal demons no longer hesitated. 100 eyes on his body opened simultaneously, and terrifying demonic chi filled the universe. In an instant, the battle at the level of Mahayana Daolords erupted in the outer domain. The power of the Tao trembled the void, capable of plucking stars with a single hand and smashing through the abandoned world barriers with a palm strike. The aftermath of their clashes was enough to cause tremendous changes in the strange rules of the outer domain. Under their influence, countless unfortunate small worlds and planets were directly affected, splitting, burning, or experiencing cosmic anomalies. The clashes between the Mahayana Daolords were straightforward and without any fancy move. Their attacks carried the complete power of the Tao, traversing the void to obliterate their targets. The Mahayana Daolord of the Pantheon sect summoned his Dharma form. A 1,000-foot-tall golden giant emerged, radiating divine light. He transformed into 1,000 arms and bombarded the Mahayana Daolord of the abyssal demons in turn. The Mahayana Daolord of the Divine Shadow Gate unveiled his arcane celestial treasure, the Void Piercer, capable of instantaneously traversing millions of miles of the void to strike at enemies, and effortlessly slicing open the fabric of outer space, creating a terrifying black hole. Under the collective suppression of 3, the previously turbulent abyssal passage was shattered, leaving this piece of extra-mundane land completely nullified, scattered with floating fragments of stars and cracks in the void. Cackle, cackle, cackle. Yet faced with such a scene, the 2 Mahayana Daolords from the abyss showed not a hint of panic. They simultaneously unleashed astonishing demonic power. One, with 100 eyes opening simultaneously, emitted bizarre purple demonic light in all directions, like the explosion of a new star, incredibly formidable. The other abyssal Daolord's body sprouted massive black worms that burrowed madly into the void, and soon, countless demonic worms emerged in this extra-mundane space, turning it into a nest of vermin. The strike from these 2 was extraordinarily eerie, unaffected by the outer domain, covering a vast area with brutal force. Instantly, countless minor worlds were hit by their attack, then began to obliterate and collapse. The clashes of the Daelords in the void were always catastrophic. Had they been in the Floodgate realm or any other world at this moment, those worlds might already have been destroyed by them. Demonic Deviants die. With a point of his right hand, a Mahayana Daelord from the Pantheon sect brought forth a golden token, engraved with the likenesses of numerous deities and containing some of their divine powers. This was one of the Pantheon sect's sect-defining arcane celestial treasures, the 100 Divine Orders. The moment this arcane celestial treasure was unveiled, countless terrifying divine weapon phantasms interwoven with the power of rules shot forth, instantly locking onto all wormholes in the void. Under the surge of divine power, all demonic worms were obliterated. This attack immediately caused a backlash against the abyssal Daelord, his face without eyes or mouth instantly twisting viciously. Hundred-eyed Abyss. At this moment, the hundred-eyed demonic Daelord also made a fierce move, with countless demonic eyes bursting forth from his body and escaping into the void. Then eyes began to grow out from the void, encircling the three human Daelords. In the world formed by the demonic eyes, the three were instantly trapped in a deep abyss filled with demonic chi, where everything turned into demonic eyes, attacking them with endless, evil power. Even the primordial spirits of the Daelords were being eroded under the horrifying spectacle of the abyssal world. Countless demonic eyes blinked simultaneously, their bizarre eroding power radiating towards them like radiation.